A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Five bells. Stand by all stations.
Attention, all districts. A 5-alarm fire. 5 bells. Move in immediately.
That's it. Let's roll.
Let's go. Firefighters.
Presenting Firefighters, the true-to-life story of our unsung heroes who stand ready to ride by day or night against our most murderous enemy, the demon of fire. In just a moment, we'll join Chief Cody, rookie fireman Tim Collins, and his young brother Jimmy at Clement's department store, where they hope to find the answer to the mysterious mattress fires. You'll recall that Tim had been given a special assignment by the chief to investigate a series of unexplained and seemingly unrelated blazes. Seemingly because Tim and Jimmy had found the one thing they all had in common. They had all started in apparently normal mattresses. And in each case, the mattress had come from the same store. Well, now, close as they are to solving this puzzle, there was still one more tense moment ahead, as you'll see right after the following message. Let's go, firefighters. Let's move through the bustle and confusion of Clement's department store to that quiet room out back, where a group of men stand in tense excitement around a simple, everyday object, a common household mattress. Harmless enough, you might think. And yet in the past few days, in widely separated places, one mattress after another has burst into flame, endangering life and property. As Chief Cody said to both Tim and Jimmy Collins, plain, ordinary cotton filling doesn't do that. And yet he can't believe any fire-setting device had been inserted, or he wouldn't have called in the famous industrial chemist, Dr. Curtis, who has just cut open the sample mattress and examined the contents carefully. For now, the firefighters are quiet as Dr. Curtis looks up and shoots a question at the owner of the store.
Mr. Clement, how many of these mattresses have you delivered to your customers, to their homes?
Well, let me see, about 30, I'd say, Dr. Curtis.
All from the same shipment as this one?
Oh, yes, sir.
Do you have a list of the names and locations where they are at this moment?
Well, I could get one together in about 5 minutes, Dr. Curtis.
Well, cut that in half if you can. Then get every delivery truck you have, pick them up, and bring them in.
If it's that important, Dr. Curtis, I could order out some of the fire department trucks and men to help.
Excellent, Chief Cody. Those mattresses might be safe for days. But on the other hand, a certain combination of events can cause more of those mysterious fires of yours.
Okay, hop to it, Tim.
Yes, sir, I'll get
Wait a minute. One more question. Mr. Clement, about 30 mattresses have gone out of your store. Was that the entire shipment?
Oh, no. I probably have nearly 70 left. They were taken back to the warehouse this morning. I needed the space here. They're probably lying out in front of it now.
You're lying in front of that huge warehouse?
Yes. It's such a lovely day, we thought it wise to make sure they were thoroughly dry before storing them.
That does it. You take care of picking up your customers' mattresses. Chief Cody, the rest of us had better get down to that warehouse.
You mean we may have another fire on our hands, another mystery fire?
It's no mystery to me, sir, that you had exactly the same circumstances there you had for all those other fires.
Then this is no time for talk. What we need is action. Let's roll.
A matter of seconds, and that's exactly what they're doing. The bright red car races at top speed through the traffic, with Chief Cody himself tight-lipped and silent at the wheel. Dr. Curtis is beside him, busy with his own thoughts. But in the back, Private Tim Collins and young Jimmy are even more puzzled than before.
Tim, what have the mattresses at the warehouse got to do with all those other ones that went up in flames?
Well, Dr. Curtis told me all those fires had something in common, something we missed, Jimmy.
Oh, boy. Well, gee whiz, what was it? Do you know, Tim?
You remember that last fire in that bedroom up under the eaves? The mattress was lying right under an open skylight.
Oh, sure, but so what?
Well, then that fire at the boys' camp, where they'd taken their cots outside for inspection. Also, that moving van fire, where they'd piled the furniture up outside the van.
Oh, how about the porch that caught fire when that lady had her mattress airing on the roof?
That's it, Jimmy. You've got it.
I have? What have I got?
Oh, the setup is the same at the warehouse now.
But didn't you say cotton couldn't burst into flame all by itself?
That's right.
And didn't you say that was plain cotton in those mattresses?
Right again.
Well, doesn't Mom put our mattresses out to air without them catching on fire by themselves?
Oh, wait a minute. You win, Jimmy. It doesn't make a bit of sense. I said the setup was the same. I didn't say I had the answer.
The boys' conversation is interrupted as the car brakes to a quick stop before the warehouse. They follow the chief and Dr. Curtis as they hurry out and over to the stacks of mattresses piled up in the sun. A heavy-set man, evidently the foreman, comes out and watches them curiously. But Chief Cody stares at the mattresses as though he had a grudge against them.
I'd feel a lot happier if I knew what I was looking for, Dr. Curtis.
You can relax, Chief Cody. We seem to be in time.
You sure? It wouldn't be safer to ring in an alarm, get a couple of lines strung over here, and wet those doggone things down?
No. All we have to do is get them inside, in a hurry.
Hey, look, Bud, I'm the foreman here. Why do you...
We represent your boss, Mr. Clement. This is an emergency.
Yeah? Well, why should we move those mattresses inside?
Pardon me, Dr. Curtis. Look, young man, I represent the fire department, and that's an order.
Oh, okay. Hustle this stuff inside, you guys.
Well, Dr. Curtis, I think you ought to take a look at this mattress. There's something awful funny here.
You're right. Good for you. You, foreman, come here. You were wondering why we want to get these mattresses in the warehouse. Here, feel this one.
Say, that's mighty hot to the touch. It's like fire.
You're closer to the truth than you realize. There is a fire inside this mattress right this minute.
Tim, that small extinguisher from my car.
Yes, sir.
Gee whiz, and just in time, too. Look at there, it's burning through in this spot. See the little flame licking at the covering?
Out of the way, Jimmy.
Right.
Yeah, now you see it, and now you don't.
Wish all our fires were that simple, Tim. You got it.
Now, if this foreman will hurry his men before any of the others...
Yes, sir. On the W, guys. There's black magic around this joint.
That's one thing I'm sure there isn't, magic. Well, I see you're operating on that mattress now, Dr. Curtis. Do we get the answer this time?
You most certainly do. Let me cut away the cloth here and get a good handful of cotton so you can see it.
But that can't be cotton if it catches fire by itself.
It's cotton, all right, Jimmy. Now, all of you gather around where you can get a close look.
All right.
I only know of one other case like this one. Fortunately, it's very, very rare.
What is, Dr. Curtis? Tim and I are standing here with our eyes popping. We can't see anything wrong.
You don't need a magnifying glass. Just look very closely. You see anything scattered through this handful of cotton?
Why, yes, I do now. You say you'd never notice it, but there seem to be a lot of tiny little seeds.
That's right. Cotton seeds. The particular shipment of cotton that went into these mattresses has not been properly ginned.
Has not been... What?
These tiny seeds should have been completely cleaned out.
Yeah, didn't you ever hear of Eli Whitney and the cotton gin?
Oh, yeah, in school.
Yeah, now you see how important his invention was, Jimmy. So this was improperly ginned, Doctor, and the seeds remain.
Yes. Thousands of these tiny seeds left in your mattresses. Cotton seeds means the presence of cottonseed oil, which is highly volatile.
Oh, now I see what you meant when you told me we'd better hurry because it was such a nice day.
That's it. We've had a spell of fine hot weather lately. Any of these mattresses left out of the rays of the sun for any length of time were turned into regular incendiary bombs.
What do you know? Cottonseed left in it by mistake, cottonseed oil, a hot sun on them, and poof, there you have it.
We certainly did. One mysterious fire after another. And no explanation till this minute. Our thanks, Doctor.
My thanks to you. We'll trace this right back to the source now. Now, if your department hadn't been on its toes, can you imagine the tragic consequences?
We never even knew the source of all those fires until I gave Tim this assignment. Before we give them a hand getting the rest of these mattresses out of the sun and into that cool, dark warehouse, Dr. Curtis, I think we ought to give both Private Collins and his brother Jimmy a vote of thanks. Yes, sir. A vote of thanks to both of them.
Later, as the chief's car heads back toward headquarters station.
Yeah. Why so thoughtful, Jimmy? Tired?
Well, no, sir. I was thinking maybe I ought to study my chemistry a bit harder.
Yeah, it does make you stop and think, doesn't it, Jimmy? I guess there are a lot of things I could brush up on myself.
Oh, that reminds me. If you'd like to brush up on your technique with a scaling ladder, drop by the training school tomorrow. One of the best men in the country is giving a demonstration.
Oh, say, I'm glad you told me, Chief. I'll do that.
Well, what's a scaling ladder exactly?
You come of a fireman's family, you don't know that, Jimmy?
Oh, well, sort of, I do. Only, I forget just how you use it.
He's bluffing, Chief. Shall I tell him?
Take him along with you to the training school if you like, son. I think he'd get a kick out of it.
Oh, swell. Will you take me, Tim? Will you, huh?
Okay, Jimmy. And you don't know what a thrill is till you've seen a scaling ladder in action.
Well, rookie fireman Tim Collins is right. Only he doesn't know how lucky it is that this chance to brush up on the technique of using a scaling ladder has come along. Because very soon... Oh, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Just let me say a scaling ladder has several uses. All of them in the most dangerous spots imaginable. And that's a tip not to miss our next true-to-life episode of The Firefighters. Fire Chief Bob Cody will be back with your special assignment right after this message. Now, Chief Bob Cody with a special notice for the Firefighters Brigade. Chief Cody.
Attention, firefighters. This is Chief Bob Cody back with something you may have forgotten in our talks about keeping attics and cellars cleaned out. There are other storage spaces in your home, maybe a special room, maybe one or more large closets. That's necessary. You can't put things you need frequently too far away. But keep any storage space neatly arranged. See that there's ventilation. That's the important thing. Space and ventilation. Well, that's all. Till next time, this is Chief Cody saying, so long.
Fire Chief Cody and the young rookie fireman Tim Collins will be back on the same station the next time you hear...
That's it. Let's roll!
Let's go! Firefighters!
Autolite and its 98,000 dealers bring you Miss Agnes Moorehead in tonight's presentation of Suspense. Tonight, Autolite presents a story in the classic tradition of suspense. A new version of Charles Dickens' terrifying short story, The Signalman. Our star, the First Lady of Suspense, Miss Agnes Moorehead. Why, it's Oscar, the super smooth and scintillating sedan.
Super smooth is right, Harlow. I'm equipped with an Autolite electrical system.
There's none better, Oscar, and it's because your Autolite electrical system is designed to operate as a team with all units and component parts related by Autolite engineering design and manufacturing skill to give you the smoothest performance money can buy.
I know how important the electrical system is, Harlow.
Sure you do, Oscar. And you know, too, how important it is to have only Autolite original service parts used when replacements are needed. Because only these parts are designed by Autolite engineers who design complete electrical systems used as original equipment on many leading makes of our finest cars, trucks, and tractors. So, friends, always insist on Autolite original service parts for your Autolite-equipped car. It pays in performance. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite. And now, Autolite presents transcribed The Signalman, starring Miss Agnes Moorehead, hoping once again to keep you in suspense.
It smashed by like a wounded monster, screaming in pain, and disappeared into the dark tunnel. In those brief seconds, I had relived the emotions of my childhood. I still trembled with the child's terror and fascination that had surged through me the many times I stood here 20 years before. Nothing had changed. The steep, dripping wet walls of jagged stone that led down to the tracks, The gloomy mouth of the tunnel. The small signalman shack, huddled against the side of the cutting. Even the job was held by the same man, they told me, in the village. He stood there in the glow of an angry sunset, furling a signal flag around a short pole. I called to him. Hello! Below! Instead of looking up at me, he turned tensely to stare toward a red signal light that glowed at the mouth of the tunnel. Hello! Below there! He finally turned, slowly it seemed to me, even fearfully, and looked up. He stared at me unanswering. I was afraid the suddenness of my call had unnerved him. I tried to compensate by being overly casual. Hello! I would like to speak to you. Is there a path I can use to come down? He stared silently a while longer, then finally pointed his flag to a spot in the cutting embankment. It was a zigzag path with small footholds cut through the clammy stone. The track seemed a mile below, but I was determined to get down. Midway, I sensed a vague vibration of earth and air, like a sound that could be felt but not heard. I tried to fight down a fear that suddenly gripped me. The air was filled with a violent pulsation. It seemed to have a force that could draw me down. I threw my hands up to my eyes as though to shut out some terrible sight. I flattened myself against the jagged rock and clutched hard. Then I was angry with myself, ashamed of this uncontrolled, childish reaction. I could see the signalman still staring at me. I climbed down the rest of the way quickly, carelessly, and I walked toward him with a casual smile. He watched me expectantly. Hello. My name is Sayers. I used to live in the village. I was anxious to speak to you. I'm sorry I startled you when I called down.
Why did you use those words?
Those words? I hardly remember. I think I shouted hello below there, or something to that effect.
Not to that effect, miss. Those were the very words. I know them well. Admit those were the words.
Oh, all right, I admit.
Why did you use them?
Well, you were below. I wanted to attract your attention, so I called hello below there. It seems logical, doesn't it?
Aye, miss. If you had no other reason.
What other reason could I possibly have?
I thought you would tell me.
I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have come down. I think I frightened you.
Why would you think that, miss?
Well, you stare at me as though you had a dread of me.
Aye, miss. I was doubtful whether I had seen you before.
Well, if you had, it was when I was 8 years old, standing on that bridge over the tunnel up there. I used to love watching the trains. Then my family moved to the city. This is my first visit back in 20 years. You don't believe me?
I'm not certain.
But where could you have seen me?
Don't you know?
Well, since I've been away for 20 years.
Up there, by the red signal light at the mouth of the tunnel.
Oh, that's why you turned and stared there when I first called.
Aye, miss.
Well, what would I be doing up at the signal light?
I don't know. I wish I... 'Tis a mistake, miss. I haven't been well. What is it you wish to speak to me about?
Well, I'm a writer. I wanted to interview you.
Me? Why me, miss?
Well, my magazine does a weekly biographical piece on interesting people and unusual occupations. It's called Close Up.
Aye, miss, I read them.
You have?
Well, you seem surprised.
Oh, please, perhaps.
That one so unsophisticated as I...
Well, I really didn't mean it that way.
There's a bit of a fire in my shack. It'd be more comfortable for you there.
Yes, thank you. Aye, this is a lonely post. Visitors must be rare.
Aye, miss. The branch superintendent makes an annual inspection. That's all, except for...
Yes?
Come in, please.
Oh, how snug and comfortable.
Well, most of my waking life is spent here. I've tried to make it pleasant.
And you've succeeded. You were speaking of visitors just as we came in.
I'll put this chair nearer the fireplace.
Thank you.
One chills out there.
I say, you have a fine collection of books.
They've given me much companionship in the long nights.
Pretty weighty companions. Gibbon's Decline and Fall. Burton's Anatomy of the Melancholy. Darwin...
Do they surprise you again, miss?
May I be frank? I'll have to be if I'm to succeed with the article. My editor is only interested, in the...
Odd?
The unusual.
And the level of my reading seems above the level of my station.
Not many people in any station these days.
Oh, come, miss, 'twas you called for frankness.
Thank you, sir. Why would a man with a mind capable of absorbing these subjects stay on a desolate job like this?
Good, miss. And I take no offense. You see, I had when young been very interested in the natural philosophies.
Oh?
I set my course, I studied hard, planned the future. Then I ran wild, misused my opportunities, went down, I've never risen again. I got no complaint. I've made my bed, it's too late to make another.
Maybe you gave up too soon.
No, miss. No, there are forces beyond us that shape us. One must know when not to resist. I might have bloodied myself a while longer, but I knew I took this position 34 years ago.
And you never regretted?
No, not until...
Won't you please tell me?
You first tell me what brought you here.
But I have.
You said nothing of what made you think of this place specifically. There are many places and people.
Well, I told you I used to come here as a child. The trains frightened and fascinated me. I always remembered it vividly through the years. I promised myself that one day I would come back and do a story on it. Good subjects aren't easy to find,
Why did you choose just now to come?
Oh, these ideas germinate in the writer's mind for a while, and then an impulse.
And you were drawn here?
You say that as though mystic forces were involved. It was much simpler, I assure you. I've been working hard. I decided that a few days in the country would do me good. I planned to use them profitably by doing a story on you.
You might have come to that decision last month or last year.
Well, that's true, but I can't see why you attach such special significance to the fact that
Why do they frighten you so?
Now, wouldn't you think I might outgrow that silly, childish... Well, if I was drawn here, as you say, I guess it was to see whether I had. The modern psychiatrist would say it was a desire to relive a childhood experience.
Aye, miss. There are many answers.
Why are you staring at me so?
Oh, was I staring at you?
Please, you promised something is preying on your mind. Can't you tell me?
It's very difficult to impart, miss. Very difficult to speak of. If you ever make another trip, I will try to tell you.
Yes, of course. And I will have to make several trips before the story takes shape. When may I come again? Tomorrow?
Oh, aye, miss, if you wish.
I'll come at 11.
You, won't have difficulty getting up?
No, it was only that first trip down.
I'll show my white light till you reach the top.
Thank you.
I'll say good night now, miss.
Good night, sir. I wish you a pleasant one.
I regret I...
Yes, I understand.
Aye, miss. I think you do. May I ask, then, when you get to the top, don't call out to me. I beg you, don't call out.
I won't.
And when you come tomorrow night, please, don't call out.
Of course not. Good night.
And may I ask one parting question?
Certainly.
When you came down the path earlier tonight, midway, you suddenly threw your hands up to your eyes like this, as though to shut out some dreadful sight. Why?
It was that uncontrollable, childish reaction. I felt as though the train would draw me down. I covered my eyes like a child not to see it.
You had no feeling that the action was conveyed to you for some reason?
No. Why should it seem otherwise?
Because there has been someone at the red light at the mouth of the tunnel each night for a week now, holding its hands up to its eyes like that, as though to shut out some terrible sight.
And you have actually seen it?
Every night.
Was it there tonight when you went to the door?
Yes, I saw it quite clearly.
Who was it?
You.
Is bringing you Miss Agnes Moorehead with Joseph Kearns in The Signalman. Tonight's presentation in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Hey, Oscar, sound your horn. Play your radio. Now start your engine.
What's all that for, Harlow?
Why, all those operations depend on the sure, smooth performance of your Autolite electrical system, Oscar. And so do the lights, heater, and electric windshield wiper.
They all depend on my Autolite electrical system, Harlow?
They sure do, Oscar. And what's more, your Autolite electrical system works every second your engine runs. That's why Autolite electrical systems, designed to give the smoothest performance money can buy, are used as original equipment on many leading makes of our finest cars, trucks, and tractors.
They're the best, Harlow.
Right you are, Oscar. And friends, treat the electrical system of your car to a periodic checkup at your car dealer's or authorized Autolite service station. To quickly locate him, look in the classified section of your phone book or call Western Union by number and ask for Operator 25. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Miss Agnes Moorehead in Elliot Lewis's production of Charles Dickens' The Signalman, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I returned the next night as the distant clocks were striking 11. The signalman waited for me at the bottom of the cutting with his white light shining. We walked silently to his shack, entered it, and sat down by the fire. I didn't wish to press him, so I said nothing. He stared at the burning embers for a moment. Then he turned to me.
I'm going to tell you, miss, as best I can, of what troubles me.
I'm glad.
I mistook you for someone else last night. That troubles me.
The mistake?
Oh, the someone else.
Who is it, then?
I don't know.
What does it do?
This time it stands with its arm across its face. The right arm is waved violently this way, as though to say, for God's sake, clear the way, clear the way.
You've heard those words?
Not certain, not about these specific words, but I've heard it call before.
When?
Oh, one moonlight night about a year ago. I was sitting here when I heard a voice cry, "Hello, below there."
Oh, that's why you were so startled when I used the same words.
Hi, miss. I ran to the door and looked out and saw this someone else standing up there by the red light near the tunnel, waving its arm as I just showed you. The voice was hoarse with shouting, and it cried, "Hello, below there! Look out, look out!" I caught up my lamp and ran toward the figure, calling, "What's wrong? What's happened? Where?" And when I got to the light, it was gone.
Did you see where?
The tunnel was the only place it could go without passing me. I ran into the tunnel for 500 yards and searched around with my light. Then I ran back here and telegraphed both ways. An alarm has been given. Is anything wrong? And the answer came back both ways. All well.
Yes, of course. Now, I'm going to take advantage of last night's permission to be frank. You've been here more than 30 years, haven't you? It isn't the most cheerful place in the world with that moaning wind through the tunnel and the wild harp it makes of the telegraph wires. It's understandable that you could have the illusion that you heard a call. And anyone staring at the dark long enough, as you did from the door, can imagine seeing something. You've let it prey on your mind so long it seems real.
finished, miss.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Within 6 hours after it first appeared, the main line flyer crashed and derailed at the far end of the tunnel. Within 10 hours, the dead and the wounded were being brought through the tunnel over the spot where the figure stood.
Coincidence. A tragic, remarkable coincidence, but I can't...
There is more.
Oh, please forgive me.
6 or 7 months passed. I had recovered from the surprise and shock when one morning, just as daylight was breaking, I looked toward the red light and saw it again.
Did it cry out?
No, it was silent.
It didn't wave its arms?
No, miss. No, it leaned against the post with both hands covering the eyes like this, as though to blot out some terrible sight.
And that's why you asked me why I had put my hands to my eyes?
Why, miss?
As I came down the path?
You called out the words it used the first time. You covered your eyes as it did the next time.
Go on, please.
That very day, as a train came out of the tunnel, I noticed a confusion of hands and heads at one of the coach platforms, and something waved. I saw it in time to flag down the engineer. He applied his brake, but the train drifted past here about 100 yards. As I ran up to it, I heard terrible screams and cries. A beautiful young woman had fallen between the cars.
Oh.
She was brought in here. She died on this very spot between us.
Oh, horrible. But I still don't see...
One final word, miss, and you will judge how my mind is troubled. It came back a week ago. Ever since, it has been here.
At the light?
Aye. It covers its eyes. It waves its arm. It shouts, for God's sake, clear the way, clear the way. I have no rest or peace for it. It calls to me many minutes together in an agonized manner. Below there, look out, look out. It stands waving at me. It sounds the telegraph ticker.
Did it sound the ticker last night while I was here?
Twice.
Oh, I assure you it did not sound. It was your imagination.
I have never made a mistake as to that, miss. I don't wonder that you failed to hear it, but I heard it.
Do you hear it now?
Aye.
What is it saying?
It isn't clear. It only warns. It doesn't say against what. If I only knew what it meant. What is the danger? Where is the danger? There is danger overhanging somewhere on the line. Some terrible calamity will happen.
Hey, you must set reason to...
If I telegraph danger on either side of me or on both, I can give no reason for it. I would get into trouble and do no good. They would think I was mad. This is the way it would work. Message, danger, take care. Answer, what danger, where? Message, don't know, but for God's sake, take care. They would displace me. What else could they do?
I can help you. But you must face realistically what I have to say. Now, will you try?
Yes, I'll try, miss.
These accidents have shaken you deeply. You feel guilt about them, even though there was nothing you could do. You've let it prey on your mind until you imagine someone tried to warn you.
Unheard that someone.
Even the senses can deceive when the mind is under stress. Men dying of thirst on a desert imagine lakes and hearing running streams.
The bodies of the dead were real enough.
I'm speaking of what you imagined after the accident. If you let me, I'll prove to you step by step that the specter existed only in your fantasy.
How can you prove that in the face of what I've told you?
By appealing to the intelligent reasoning portion of your mind. Listen, you were positive when you first saw me that I was the specter. You saw up the light, now weren't you?
You used the same word.
Well, now listen carefully. I appeal to the intelligent, well-read, reasonable man. 3 words. Hello, below there. I was 500 yards away at the top of the embankment, and you were here, below, with darkness falling, and 3 words made you positive you had seen me before. Can't you see you were trying to fit something to what you already believe?
But then you put your hands to your eyes like...
Further proof. You've allowed yourself to believe some disaster is about to befall. When I covered my eyes because of a childish fear, you fitted that to what you already believed.
The telegraph ticker wasn't...
You must hear me out. Would you at any other time, or would anyone at any time, believe that a telegraph ticker could sound in a room this small and be heard by one person and not another?
I told you...
And now the most important proof. You said that when you went to the door last night, it was there by the red danger light.
Aye, it was.
Will you come to the door with me now and tell me if it is still there? Do you see it?
No, miss. It is not there.
Agreed. And now I'm going to prove that it never was there. I studied the light from the top of the hill before I came down tonight. The post is at least 7 feet high. The light is shielded with a hood. Even if a person stood directly under it or in front of it, they would be in complete shadow, in darkness. You couldn't see that person from this door, and you couldn't see that person if you walked to within a foot of her, or him, or it. I'm going to walk up the incline to the light and prove that to you now. I walked up the inclining tracks toward the red light at the mouth of the tunnel. The chill, dank wind had an edge like a cold knife. When I got to the light post, I stood directly under it. No portion of the red glow reached me. I was lost completely in the dark. I saw the signalman silhouetted in the yellow light of the doorway.
Hello! Can you see me? Hello, below there! Can you see me? No. Good! Now start walking toward me and tell me when you can see me.
He stepped between the rails of the northbound tracks on a line with the red signal light and walked toward me. Then the icy hand of my childhood dread gripped me. There was a vague vibration of the earth and air. Far behind him, coming up the grade fast, I could begin to see the glow of the locomotive's light.
Look out! Look out! Look out! Say, clear the way! Clear the way!
He walked as though in a spell. He didn't hear me, or wouldn't hear me. I threw my left arm up to my eyes and waved my right arm frantically.
Below there! Look out! Look out! Clear the way! For God's sake, clear the way!
Long after it was over, they found me, still standing there, both of my hands up to my eyes to shut out the terrible sight.
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Miss Agnes Moorehead.
This is Harlow Wilcox again, speaking for Autolite, world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. Autolite is proud to serve the greatest names in the industry. That's why during these early months of 1953, the Autolite family joins again in saluting the leading manufacturers who install Autolite products as original equipment. Just 2 weeks from tonight, as a climax to this year's Autolite Family Salute program, we will present the exciting story of the first and only round-the-world auto race. Our star will be Van Johnson, and the program will be broadcast direct from the Grand Ballroom of New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where the great Easter Parade of Stars auto show will be in progress. That's Monday, April the 6th, for the auto race that stirred the world. And, of course, be sure to join us next week for another story of Suspense.
Next week, an American legend as we recreate the cruel murder of Laura Foster by the bitter Tom Dooley. Our star, Mr. Joseph Cotton. That's next week on Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed by Elliott Lewis, with music composed by Lucian Morowick and conducted by Lud Gluskin. Portions of the program were transcribed. The Signalman was adapted for Suspense by Irving Reese from the short story by Charles Dickens. In tonight's story, Joseph Kearns played the Signalman.
Agnes Moorehead has been on the road in Don Juan in Hell and can currently be seen in Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's picture, The Story of Three Loves.
And remember, next week, Mr. Joseph Cotton in Tom Dooley.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
Oboler's Plays. On the winds of the night, we bring you a story whispered in the night. This is a story of revenge. The scene is the end of a mountain trail. It is night, and at the edge of a cliff that lifts 500 feet above a river far below stand a man and a girl. The man is flashily dressed, his face smug and self-certain. As his arms go around the girl, she suddenly thrusts him away and steps back, her face tense and white.
Put up your hands, Mac Weber. Yes, this gun's a real one. Put up your hands, I said. Oh, I've waited 5 miserable years for this. No. This isn't a hold-up, Mac Weber. I don't want your money. I'll tell you what I want. I want to see you step off the edge of this cliff. Yes, that's what I said. I want to see you walk off into nothing. I want to hear you scream as you fall. I want to see your arms and your legs twisting and reaching for something that isn't there. That's what I want, Mac Weber. So you think I'm joking? Yeah. Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke that's filled my days and my nights ever since that night he reached for something that wasn't there. He was different than you are, Mac Weber. In a minute you'll be begging for life. But he didn't beg. He went out bravely because that's the only way he knew how to be. Step back off the cliff, Mac Weber. Step back. You can't understand why I want to kill you. Think back, Mac Weber. Think back to that night 5 years ago. That night you took him up here and gave him his choice, either to help you or get thrown off that edge behind you. Think back.
Scared, kid. I know, Mr. Weber. Why should I be afraid? Oh, I don't know. Some people can't stand being up in high places. I don't mind. You know, it's 500 feet down that river. Back home, we kids used to go swimming in the quarry. Dive 30 or 40 feet. That was fun. What's the matter, kid? You're having plenty fun. Mr. Weber, I want to talk to you. No, ain't that funny? I've been wanting to talk to you, too, Joe. Yeah. That's why I brought you up here to the cliff tonight. I like to talk up here. I come up here lots of times at night. Sit here. Look down at the city. But I'm talking and you want to talk. Well, what's on your mind?
Mr. Weber, what kind of a business are you in?
What kind of talk is that?
I've got to know.
You giving orders now, Joe?
I don't want you to get sore, Mr. Weber, but I've got to know. Believe me, I've got to.
I don't like people that ask too many questions.
It's a legitimate business, isn't it, Mr. Weber?
Maybe I should get sore. Maybe I won't. Hey, you're just a big dumb punk from the farm, that's all. So let's forget it and go back to town. Come on.
Wait, Mr. Weber.
Maybe I ought to get sore.
Please, I'd like to know right away. It's all right. The business, isn't it?
Making dough, ain't you?
But things happen. I don't understand them.
You understand the dough, don't you?
Yes, but...
Well, so it's all right. Make it every week. Put it in your pocket and shut your mouth. Don't be trying to think so much. You'll hurt your head. Now, are you riding back with me or are you walking back?
Why don't you answer me, Mr. Weber?
3 weeks working for me. And I didn't know you had such a big mouth.
But I only want to know what...
You want to know too much. Well, maybe I better find myself another job.
All right, kid. Maybe I better tell you all about it. What do you want to know? What's bothering you?
It's the money.
Huh?
Well, I thought I was delivering that money to a private bank all this time. Yesterday I heard the fellas talking, and they said those other people sell the money I bring to them. Yeah, sell it. It doesn't make sense.
Don't it?
No, because why should they be selling money? What would be the point of selling $1 for less than $1 unless the money wasn't any good, unless the money wasn't any...
Maybe you're answering yourself, Joe.
It's true.
Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
Take your hands off
Listen.
me.
I don't like punks that raise their voices to me.
I don't care what you like. I'm through. I'm quitting.
What did you say, kid?
Gun.
Didn't you have any guns like this back on the farm, Joe?
Pointing a gun at me, but why?
I'll give you the idea real quick, farmer boy. You came to me looking for a job. I didn't come looking for you. All right. So I gave you a job. So you keep it. Understand?
Counterfeit money. I don't want a job like that.
I told you. You got the job. You keep it.
But I
want to tell you something, punk. It's 500 feet straight down from here. And once in a while a guy gets tired of living and he jumps off. So the cops pick up what's left and that's all. And once in a while some guy that ain't tired of living, he jumps off. And all the ways down he wants to keep on living. But when he hits the bottom down there, he's just as dead as the rest of them. You get what I mean, kid?
You can't make me do what I don't want to do. Fake money, that's criminal. Let's...
Shut up. So I can't make you do what you don't want to do, huh? Listen, farmer boy. I'm going to tell you something else. All over the world today, there are punks like you doing things they don't want to do. And the guys like me that are making them do it are the guys that are sitting right up on top.
Now, look, Mr. Weber.
It's like I tell you. You do what you're told, the way I tell you to do it. Because if you don't, on a night like this, you're going to be flying out over the edge. And when you hit the bottom, there may be a couple of questions asked, but you won't be asking them. Now get going, punk.
So now you remember, Mac Weber. Joe Warner. That's right. No, I wasn't his girl. I was his wife. Wife. Joe. Can't sleep?
No.
Why?
I just can't. Blasted town, doesn't it ever stop?
I'll get up and shut the window.
No, don't. Gotta get some air in the place.
What's the matter, dear?
Nothing.
All these hours I've been lying here knowing you were awake. Tell me what's the matter, Joe.
Let's get out of here.
What?
This town, let's get out. Back to the farm.
But Joe.
What good is it here for either of us?
Joe, you're not serious.
I am. I'm asking you, what good is it for you or me?
Joe, you're talking crazy.
You asked me, and I'm telling you.
You mean these weeks you haven't been happy?
With you, yes. Just that I want to go back to the farm.
I don't know what to say. We talked that out, I thought, so long ago.
Julie, I'm not made for the city. I'm not fitted, I tell you. My hands, they're for hard work. My head, I haven't got the right kind of brain. Need a brain like a rat to get along in this town.
So what's come over you? You've been doing so well. You got such a fine job. Making so much money. Why, my father never made in a month what you make in a week. I've been so proud of you.
Julie.
Oh, don't spoil everything now. All my life I've had nothing. For the first time I'm beginning to live the way I've wanted to. Don't spoil that, Joe. Just because the night is so hot and it's hard to sleep. And you're tired and want to talk crazy. Let me stay here where I'm alive and happy.
All right.
He wanted me to be happy. So he didn't say anything more about anything that was troubling him, about you. And he went on doing what you wanted him to. Until that night. Remember that night, Mac Weber?
Okay, Joe. We wait here.
But I don't understand.
You talk so much. Stay back here. Mac said he'd pick us up at 10, and he will.
There he is. Come on. Come on, I tell you.
Walk slow.
I don't know what this is all
If
about.
Mac want to tell you, he's tell you.
Hey, Mac. Come on, get in. Get in.
Sure, boy.
Come on. Mr. Weber, what
Get
are
up. Where is he, Vasily? That thin fellow by the lamppost. Making off he's reading the paper.
Sure?
Yeah. Joe dropped the bundle off at Mike's like you tell him. Then this fella started tailing. He's been with us ever since.
Okay. Mr. Weber, why don't you tell me what's going on?
I told you to shut your mouth. Here. Close your hand on this gun.
What?
Do it, I tell you. Close your hand on the gun. Okay. Now, give it back to me. Hey, mister.
Talking to me?
Yeah. I got something for you, copper.
Shot him. You shot him.
Vasily, throw him out. Okay.
No, don't. Let me go. Let me be.
No! That's the gun. Throw the gun in. Like it. Okay. Let's go.
For what happened that night, Mac Weber. But the gun was your gun, and the finger that pressed the trigger was your finger. But he died for that. With a rope around his neck, his legs twisting and reaching for ground that wasn't there the way yours are going to twist and reach. Step back, Mac Weber. No, I don't want to listen to you. Joe wanted to live, too, the night the state took him away to die. We've been together such a little time. 5 months. And now he's been dead. 5 years. But I remember every day of those 5 months. Every day. From the very first one.
You sound happy.
What do you think?
Oh, I think the sun's warm, the grass is soft, and the bride never had a bluer sky.
Bride.
Darling.
I love you, Julie.
Mrs. Warner.
Mrs. Warner. What?
I was just thinking of Reverend Wilson. His collar was so tight.
I want to hold you.
Joe, everybody's watching.
Everybody?
There's a whole row of crows on the fence wire over there.
Oh, let them watch. You're my wife now, Julie. My wife. My wife.
A wife. But not for long, Mac Weber. You saw to that. 5 months a wife. And now I'm thinking of the last 5 minutes we were together before they took him away to die. He put his arms around me. And our cheeks were close together. And his tears were my tears. He didn't cry because he was afraid like you are. He cried because of me. Because I was going to be all alone. I'm remembering those 5 minutes, Mac Weber.
I'm sorry, Joe. 5 more minutes.
All right, Warden.
Oh, Joe!
Julie.
No.
No, please, darling. You've got to listen to me. Mr. Sage.
Joe, it isn't right. It isn't. It isn't.
That's what I want to talk to you about, Julie. All these days, I've had a chance to think. Something I haven't done much of before. This business of right and wrong. I used to tear my hands open on the wall yelling about justice, justice.
Oh, Joe.
No. Listen to me without tears, Julie. I want you to understand the way I've figured things out. I've figured out that in life, things just happen. There's no guarantee that truth will triumph and justice reign supreme and all that stuff. That's just, well, it's a pipe dream that people have had for so many years, they've got to believe it's the truth.
Keep holding me.
But I tell you, Julie, In life, there's no promise that things that are right will come out right. That's something for the books and the moving pictures. But it isn't real any more than it's real that I'll stop loving you 5 minutes from now.
Joe.
Justice isn't something that's guaranteed in life, I tell you. You can only be sure that there'll be justice after I die.
Oh, I can't stand it.
No, don't, Lily. Don't. I'm not crying anymore. Why should I cry? Because I'll be dead? Sooner or later, everybody will be dead. The warden out there, the guards that walk me along, the poor guy that'll pull the switch. A handful of years and they'll all be dead. Yes. Even Mac Weber.
So I won't let them take me out of here. I won't let them.
Julie, baby, you were always the strong one. You were so much smarter than me. You are, you know. Be smart now and understand it my way. I've been lucky. 5 months with you. There were such wonderful days. I don't think life's cheated me any. But there are guys here in death row that haven't had more than a few hours when they were really happy. Really happy, like you and I were. This place, the city, the whole world's filled with plain, ordinary people who've never really been happy. Never. Cry for them, Julie. Not for me. I've had you.
Time, boy. You'll have to go with me, Mrs. Warner.
So it was time, Mac Weber. And Joe tried to smile, and he kissed my hand. And then they dragged me away. And a few minutes later, they took him out and hung him. And when he died, I wanted to die, too. But I couldn't die because you were still alive. Step back, Mac Weber. No, what's the use of you talking to me? I can't listen. I can't hear you. All that's in my head is that Joe's dead and you're alive and standing at the edge of the cliff, and in a minute what I said I'd do that night he died, I'm going to do. That night, the gates of the jail behind me, I stood there. So dark. Raining. I stood there and I looked up and down the street, and all that I could think of was that you were alive. And I had to find you. I didn't know where you were. I'd never seen you. Only one picture of that face of yours. But I had to find you. I had to. Train after train. Town after town. Looking for you. Looking for you. I had to find you. I had to. Mac Weber. Mac Weber. Where was Mac Weber? Until at last my money was gone. I found myself back in this town where I'd started from. But you hadn't come back. And so I waited. Waited. 5 years. And then, tonight. I'd gone to Molly so many times because they told me it was your money that paid for her place. And so I went again and again, hoping, until tonight.
Well, if it ain't the little lady.
Hello, Molly.
Oh, so you still remember my name. Where you been? I figured you'd gone high hat or married or something.
Oh, I've been away.
Oh, away, huh? Yeah, well, I bet you found out there ain't no place like the old town. I says old places like old friends, like old shoes. Nothing like them. Speaking of shoes, mind if I sit down? Got a new pair of pumps and they're killing me. I got small feet, but that dirty little drift over on 2nd Avenue. What do you don't know about fitting shoes on a lady? Oh, say, here I'm blowing off. I bet you're dying for a drink.
No, I just came into
Oh, that's okay, little lady. It's on the house. Hey, Sam, couple of big ones.
Coming up, Molly.
And I don't mean on the slow plate. Say, what was your name again?
Julie.
Oh, yeah. Boy, have I got a kid. Well, when you stopped coming in here, I says to myself, Molly, the little lady's got herself a friend, I says. And you won't. So what are you staring at?
That man. At the bar.
Man? Oh, no. Oh, no, that's not your friend. That's mine.
Who is he?
You're not the only one that's found out there's nothing like the old place. Hey, big fella. Mac, come on over. Friend of mine I want you to meet. He used to have this town right in his pocket, Mac did. But he had to go away. A nice guy.
Well, Molly, what's on your mind?
Well, can't you see? Julie, I want you to meet my friend. Mac, this is Julie. She's a nice kid.
Yeah. So I see. How are you, baby?
How do you do, Mr. Weber?
Weber? Say, you two know each other?
Never saw her before in my life. Listen, baby. How did you know my last name?
Why? I knew it because I heard about you. A long time ago.
Yeah?
You're important here. I saw your picture in the papers. You are Mac Weber, aren't you?
You hear that, Molly? Don't forget me easy around here, do they? It's okay. Drinks, Molly.
Okay. Well, put him down.
Hey, I think I'll join you, ladies. Hey, bring me the bottle, Sam. Okay, Mac.
You two been kidding me.
What are you talking about?
I think you've been around together. The look she gives you.
Can you blame her? Say, what's your name, baby?
Julie.
Yeah, Julie. Now, Julie and me, we don't know each other. Do we, Julie?
I never met you before.
But that ain't saying we don't know each other from now on. Does it, baby?
Don't listen to him. That's an old line. He hangs it up every time he's in reaching distance of anything under 50.
Why don't you take care of the customers, Molly?
Why, I ought to bust this glass in half and take care of
I
you.
said take care of the customers, Molly.
Okay, big shot. See you later.
Funny dame, that Molly. 5 years. She still thinks she's queen of the hen house. But a fellow's mind can change. Yeah. It's a free country. Why not?
Mac Weber.
Oh, you seem to like the name. Well, you're going to get a chance to like the guy that's tied up to the handle. You're going to get a lot of chances, baby. A lot of chances.
So we met at last, Mac Weber, and you couldn't understand why I didn't say much. How could I? You opposite me. I'd waited so long. What was there to say? Over and over you kept asking me, what do you know, baby? What do you know? And what I did know, I couldn't tell you. All the time I was thinking, the cliff. The cliff. Then you wanted me to go with you. And I went with you.
Hey, slow up, baby. Take it easy. What are you trying to do, commit suicide? That's better. You gotta admit you can drive, babe. And after all, this ain't exactly a racetrack climbing up here. Hey, tell me, what do you think of my car, huh?
It's a fine car.
You're telling me? You got any idea what this boat cost me?
No.
$15,000. Cash on the line. But that's how I am. The best of everything. And that's why I go for you, babe.
Do you? Really?
Sure. The minute I laid eyes on you, I says to myself, Mac, I says, there she is.
It's getting very dark.
Here, I says to myself, Mac, there's the kind of baby you could do things for. The kind who'll really appreciate the dough you spend. Say, you listening to me?
Yes. Yes, I'm listening.
Well, you wasn't looking at me.
I can't. The winding road.
You know, I can't figure you dames out at all. Here I got a swell place to go to. $40,000 it cost me to fix it up 5 years ago, not counting the furniture. But no, it ain't what you want. You gotta go driving up to the cliff.
The cliff?
Hey, what's the matter? What do you say the cliff like that?
I only mean that, well, up there we'll be all alone, won't we?
Now you're talking. Baby, you sure got me nuts about you.
Have I? Really?
Yeah. Like I was saying, the minute I laid eyes on you at Molly's, I said to myself, Mac Weber, here's a new number's okay. And when I saw you giving me the eye, say
No, be careful.
Careful with a swell bundle like you?
But the road, I can't drive it.
Okay. But step on it, will you? If you gotta go to the top of the mountain to be nice, let's get there. Yeah, let's get there.
Now you're here, Mac Weber, and you're going to die. No, I've talked enough. No, I tell you, I can't hear you. All I can hear in my head is this. Step back, Mac Weber. I'll give you 3 seconds to... No. Stand where you are. Don't come closer. I'll shoot you. I swear I will. I'll shoot you. Laugh at me. You knew I couldn't shoot you. I couldn't. But now you've got the gun. Shoot me and I'll thank you for it. All I've lived for these 5 years was to find you. And then tonight, my flesh crawled every time I looked at you. Yes, that's what I said, my flesh. It crawled and it squirmed when you touched me. But I let you because I'd do anything to get you up here on the cliff. But now, I've failed. So I'll bless the bullet you send in me. No. Stay away from me. Stay away from me. Don't touch me. Don't. Oh, don't listen to him. He says you're dead and you can't help me. Don't make him. $500 feet down. Oh, Joe. My dearest. I saw you. It was your hand that pushed him over. It was your hand.
You have just listened to The Cliff, written especially for radio by Arch Oboler and featuring Miss Betty Wakeler, with Frank Lovejoy, Milton C. Herman, Betty Kane, and Kurt Conway. Arch Oboler's plays. On the winds of the night, we bring you a story whispered in the night. Arch Oboler's plays are presentations of the National Broadcasting Company, RCA Building, Radio City, New York.
Forces Radio invites you to sit back and enjoy another strange story by The Whistler.
I am the Whistler.
I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
And now, the Whistler's strange story, The Prosecutor.
The courtroom was tense now. Assistant District Attorney Philip Graham was beginning to summarize for the prosecution. In the case of the People versus Thomas Anderson, the thrill of success was in his speech as he moved in for the kill.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in addition to the fact that circumstance links the defendant irrevocably to the killing, he still persists in his refusal to testify. Still offers no explanation as to his whereabouts on the night in question, solely on the basis of possible self-incrimination.
And you were right, weren't you, Philip? Less than 10 minutes after the jury retired, they walked back in with a verdict you knew was coming. And Tom Anderson was on his way to the cell in condemned row. But that wasn't all, Philip. No, far from it. Most important was what your colleagues were saying as they clustered around you.
Well, this will put you at the top of the heap, Phil. You'll have that mahogany desk, old man, in the Hall of Justice.
And there'll be a brass nameplate, Philip B. Graham, District Attorney.
You betcha. With this conviction, you can't miss.
And they were right, weren't they, Philip? The voters made it official 2 weeks later. And only you know what kind of a job you really did. Yes. It isn't easy to convict a man when you know in your heart that he's completely innocent. But you're not thinking about that at the victory celebration. There's too much else going on. Congratulations, back-slapping, important people. And above all, a beautiful brown-haired girl with clear blue eyes and a quick, easy smile.
I didn't quite get that name.
Corinne Scott. Oh, Mr. Graham, how wonderful to actually meet you.
Oh, not at all. The pleasure's mine.
I know you heard us many times, Mr. Graham, but, well, I thought you were magnificent at the Anderson trial.
No, I was only doing my job.
A public prosecutor. It's almost like playing fate.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
I mean, the idea of holding the fate of a fellow human being in the palm of your hand. It's a little frightening. Such responsibility.
Yes, it is a responsibility. Of course, we make pretty certain of our facts before we step into a courtroom and start making accusations.
Of course you do.
Old American custom, you know, a man is innocent until proven guilty.
But just think, Mr. Graham, in this case, the jury was about to let that killer go free. Why, if it hadn't been for you...
Yes, I had a feeling about Tommy Anderson from the very beginning.
It must have been a very hard fight.
It wasn't easy. Of course, if a man knows what he's doing and...
And where he's going.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess I admire ambitious men, Mr. Graham. I admire them very much.
Thank you, Miss Scott.
I probably shouldn't say this, but...
Please do.
Well, I think this is a silly way to celebrate anything so important as becoming district attorney. A stuffy reception and a lot of politicians. Now, if I were running things...
Yes?
I'd get rid of the politicians. I'd reserve a table for two at a little restaurant I know where the steaks are heavenly and there's vintage wine, crepe Suzanne.
And champagne?
Veuve Clicquot 1940, no less. How does it sound?
You're a pretty good salesman.
Well, that's all. That's what I do.
And when would you do it?
Oh, tomorrow night, perhaps. Say about 9.
You know I'm a married man, of course.
What's that got to do with the victory celebration?
Well, if that's the way you look at it.
9 o'clock tomorrow night.
All right, Miss Scott.
Well, Philip, you know it's a foolish thing to do. But there's something in the way she looks up at you and smiles that makes it all sound very reasonable. And you forget about everything else. Your wife, your son David in medical school, his good friend, Professor Bentley, who thinks you're the greatest man who ever lived. At 8:15 the following night, you're standing before the mirror in your bedroom, adjusting your tie. Corinne is lovely, isn't she? And as you put on your dinner jacket, you're thinking of the soft lights and the music.
Oh, there you are, Dad. Here he is, Professor. Almost gave you up, Dad. Thought you weren't coming.
Hello, son. Got the culprit at last. I told you he wouldn't walk out on us, Dave.
Hurry up, Dad. We're a half hour late as it is.
Well, what do you mean we're late? Say, what's the idea of the dinner jackets, Mr. Graham?
Yeah, there's nothing formal about
Wait a
this.
minute. What's this all about?
Huh?
You going somewhere? Are we going somewhere?
Dad, you didn't forget.
Oh, forget what?
Tonight, you promised you'd go.
Promised I'd go where?
Don't you remember? The faculty's having a father and son night. Professor Bentley's in charge.
Good Lord, I did forget. Oh, I know, Mr. Graham. You're a busy man.
Dad, you've never forgotten before. You've come with us every year now.
I'm awfully sorry, son. Professor, I just can't make it.
What is it? Where are you going?
Well, it's a committee dinner, son. Very important. I simply can't get out of it.
But, Dad...
I said I can't get out of it. Let it go at that, will you?
All right, Dad. I'm sorry.
And that was the beginning, Philip. You didn't know it then, but you made a choice that night. A choice between your family, your home, and Corinne. And as you and Corinne continued to meet secretly during the weeks that followed, it began to worry you. Not your family, of course. It was your position, your reputation.
Oh, Philip, I think it's wonderful. All you've accomplished.
Corinne, there's something
You
I
don't
think...
have to say it, Philip. I know what you're thinking.
Do you?
You're wondering when I'm going to tell you I want out. When I'm going to tire of loving a man I can never be seen with.
Corinne, dear,
Isn't that it?
Oh, frankly, yes.
Please don't think about it anymore. I don't want to break up your home. I never will, darling. Because it would hurt the very thing I admire you for most of all. Your career. That's all.
Well, Philip, you can have it all now. Your family, your career, and Corinne. She's right, isn't she? The one all-important thing in your life is that nameplate on your desk. Philip V. Graham, District Attorney. And you know now that you'll never have to choose between that and Corinne. And then one night, a few weeks later, you return unexpectedly from a business trip and decide to drop in to see her before going home. As you walk up the steps out of the porch, you hear voices. Disturbing voices.
That is just the way I feel about it.
You can't tell me everything's over between us.
It's got to be over.
I can't turn my love off just like that.
As you grab the handle of the front door, a rage wells up inside you, gripping your stomach, rising in your throat and bursting in your brain like a shell.
Open this door. Corinne! Corinne!
Philip, why did you come here?
Never mind that. Who are you talking to?
Philip, be quiet.
Don't lie to me. Where is he?
Philip.
Tell me I heard someone in here. Where's he hiding?
Oh, please, Philip.
Get out of my way.
You step past her. The closet door is partly open. And as you walk toward it, Corinne steps to the light switch, and the room goes dark.
Turn on that light. Oh, here you are. I knew it.
As you struggle with him in the darkness, you realize he's too powerful for you. He forces you back against the table. Your hand lights on a heavy metal bookend. In a blind rage, you swing it high.
Now you'd better turn on the lights, Corinne.
Philip.
Hurry up.
All right.
Good Lord.
Oh, Philip, why did you do it? He didn't mean anything to me. Nothing at all. He came here because he found out about us. He wanted me to stay away from you.
Oh, get some water quickly.
It's no use. He's dead, Philip.
Oh, no.
You've killed Professor Bentley, your son's best friend.
This is Alfred Hotskick. Does the name Jean Nicot mean anything to you? Perhaps it should, and I shall tell you why. 400 years ago, Jean Nicot was a respected scholar and diplomat. He wrote many learned articles and compiled a dictionary of the French language. Quite appropriately, his own name came to be part of most later dictionaries. For you see, while Monsieur Nicot was serving as ambassador to Lisbon, he became fascinated by a strange plant that had been brought over from the new land of America. When he returned to his own country in 1560, he took some specimens of the plant with him, and in this manner he introduced tobacco to France. Nicot's countrymen began to associate his name with the smoke-producing leaves. But the older Indian word, which sounded like tobacco, became more common. Nicot, however, was not completely left out. His name lives on in nicotine, the poisonous drug in the plant he introduced to France. So there you have the moral of my story. Beware of those who would name something after you. Should it be the wrong thing, you may find your good name poisoned.
Well, Philip, you never expected anything like this. This couldn't be happening to you. It's all so horrible, so fantastic. For weeks now, your association with Corinne Scott has seemed so completely wonderful. Now, with the suddenness of the jealous rage that spurred your wild action there in the dark room, a beautiful dream was turned into a nightmare. And Professor Bentley, gentle, friendly Professor Bentley, your son David's friend, lies dead at your feet. As you stand there, stunned, looking down at what you've done, you're vaguely aware that Corinne has come forward and picked up the heavy bookend you used. You sink down into a chair as she moves about, straightening things up, scarcely looking at you. Slowly, you lower your hands from your face and look up at her.
Corinne, what are we going to do?
You've killed him, Philip. You've killed an innocent man who did nothing more than come here to ask me to stay away from him.
Oh, I know that. As soon as the light went on and I saw who it was, I knew why he was here. Oh, Corinne, Professor Bentley was such a good friend to my son, to me. What am I going to say? How can I explain?
You wouldn't have to explain if you could get him out of here, Philip.
What?
If he were found somewhere else, maybe miles from here.
Corinne, would you help me do that?
Yes, Philip. I would.
I never knew anyone could be so devoted. So much in love with a person.
I'm not doing it because I love you, Philip.
What?
Because I don't. I never have.
Corinne, what are you talking about?
I loathe you, Philip. I despise you and everything you've ever stood for.
Have you lost your mind?
Oh, the man of stone is crumbling. What's the matter, Philip? You're shaking. Shaking like a man in the death house. You're scared and bewildered, just like Tommy Anderson up there in the state penitentiary.
Anderson? Tommy Anderson? What do you know about him?
I know that he was innocent, Philip. And so do you. I know that you put him where he is in condemned row because it made you district attorney.
I don't know what you're saying. And I don't see what it has to do with
it. It has everything to do with it, Philip. Everything in the world. Because that's what Tommy Anderson means to me.
What?
I knew you'd be surprised. You see, Philip, you're not the prosecutor on the case anymore. I am.
You mean you planned this? You got the professor
No,
here?
not the professor. I had nothing to do with his coming here. I simply intended to involve you in a scandal, Philip. Or rather, a threatened scandal.
And
then I was going to give you a choice. A choice of being ruined through disgrace.
Or of telling the truth about Tommy Anderson. Right?
Exactly. Now you have two alternatives, Philip. You can either free Tommy or stand trial for murder.
But it's impossible. I can't go back on what I've said about Anderson, not without...
Not without admitting you produced false evidence against him.
I'd be thrown out of office in 24 hours.
Is that worse than the gas chamber?
Is that the choice you're giving me, Corinne?
That's it, Philip. You haven't long to make up your mind. The neighbors should be coming home any minute now. They might get curious if they saw a body being
Don't
carried
talk
out.
about it. I'll do what you say, Corinne. Where's Professor Bentley's car?
He said he parked in the next block. He didn't want to be seen.
I'll go get it.
I'll go with you.
You don't have to. I'll come back.
I'm sure you'll come back. Because, you see, while I straightened up around here, I hid that bookend. The one with your fingerprints all over it.
Not missing a bet, are you?
I can't afford to. Tommy Anderson's life depends on it. Shall we go?
You find the professor's car a block away. Run it into the drive alongside the duplex. Corinne helps you carry the professor's body out of the house to the car, warns you to call her soon, and returns to the apartment. In the next half hour, you live your life over, don't you, Philip? Driving grimly through the night, not knowing exactly where you're going, trying to stay on the darkest streets until you reach the edge of town. The university looms up ahead, a big, slumbering shadow. And you decide there's no better spot than Professor Bentley's own campus. You run the car in beneath the clump of trees, turn off the motor, wipe away your fingerprints, and climb out. Some distance from the campus, you swing onto a trolley car and get off 20 minutes later and walk the few blocks to your home. Not much hope for sleep, is there, Philip? Nothing to do but wait for the axe to fall. The minute the morning papers hit the streets.
X-ray, University Professor Slade, X-ray.
Police offer the theory that the killing might be a gangland reprisal against District Attorney Philip Graham, whose home the slain professor often visited. Recent efforts by the Graham regime to rid the city of gangster domination are known to have caused threatening talk in many quarters, a City Hall spokesman said today. While Graham himself could not be reached concerning his...
Hello, Phil.
Hello, Matt.
Anything new? Wish there was. The boys have been out at 48 hours now without arrest.
You're not giving up, are you?
You know me better than that. The day I give up, I'll resign as police commissioner. They know what the professor meant to you and your boy, Phil. We'll get the guy who did it if it takes us 20 years.
Oh, just a second.
Yeah.
There's a Miss Scott calling, Mr. Graham.
Wait a minute.
I told her you were busy. She says it's quite important.
All right, put her on.
Hello, Philip?
You called at a bad time. I'm busy with the police commissioner.
Go ahead, Phil. Don't mind
I'll
me.
be brief, Philip. I've waited 2 days now. That's all I intend to wait. I want a signed statement about Tommy.
Look, I'll have to see you first.
I told you I'm not going to wait any longer. It had better be tonight.
All right, tonight.
9 o'clock?
Make it 10.
All right, 10. And I wouldn't be late if I were you.
No, of course. Goodbye. Appointments, favors, business as usual. What do they think I am, anyway?
Tough on you, I know, Phil. Well, I better get back and see if the boys did anything with the one lead we've got.
What's that?
A girl.
A girl?
We think the professor had a date with a girl that night. Some dame who was paid to lure him into the trap.
You mean on the campus?
He wasn't killed on the campus. We knew that from the first. He was probably murdered in the girl's apartment.
Oh. I see.
We're checking every move he made that night. We'll find her, if she's alive.
What do you mean by that?
Well, she's a pretty important girl. For both our side and theirs. I wouldn't be surprised to find her in the river one of these mornings. I'll see you later, Phil.
And you're thinking about the girl as he talks to you, aren't you, Philip? of what she told you that terrible night in her living room, that you have two alternatives, Philip. You can either free Tommy or stand trial for murder. But there's another choice now, isn't there? Yes, it's been done before. The usual disappearance of the key witness with all the gangster trimmings. They'll never question it for a moment. At 5 minutes of 10, as you walk onto the porch of Corinne's house for the first time since the murder, you've made a terrific decision. You're going to kill her.
Well, you're right on time, Philip.
I'm always on time.
Well, it won't take long. I didn't quite understand what you meant this afternoon about discussing it. There's nothing to discuss. I wanted a signed affidavit that you sent Tommy Anderson up on manufactured evidence. I'll be only too happy to walk out of your life. It's very simple.
It's not that simple, Corinne. I want that bookend, for one thing.
Naturally. What about your signed statement?
Here you are. I wrote it at the office this afternoon. It's all there.
It certainly is.
What about the bookend?
Just a minute. I'm enjoying this. You know, Philip, I'd never believe you could be so free.
Where is it?
It's there on the table in plain sight.
You didn't hide it?
Not that one. I hid the mate to it, Philip, very conveniently, just in case you decided to steal it. In a drawer under a pile of papers where I knew you'd find it. You could never tell them apart without a microscope, of course. Fingerprints are hard to see. Philip? You... Wait a minute. You can't get away with...
Sorry, Corinne. It's too bad you didn't realize there was a third choice. Graham speaking.
Phil, there's a big break in the Bentley case.
Go on.
The girl I told you about. She's more than a theory now. She's a corpse. Found her dead in her apartment this morning.
Any idea who did it?
We know who did it, Phil.
That's pretty quick work.
You want me to send a car for you?
For me?
I'm afraid so.
Where are you?
Her apartment. You've got the suspect here with us.
Oh, you have him there?
That's right.
For sure, Matt. Send the car. I'll be right over.
Oh, this is Alfred Hudson speaking. Once upon a time, there was an Apache named Oyafle. Freely translated, this means one who yawns. Obviously, this was not a proper name for a warrior who wished to strike terror in his opponents. So Goyafle, perhaps after consulting an early-day version of an actor's agent, selected a name which he felt was more appropriate. Soon, he was the terror of the Southwest. Throughout the area, people trembled with fear when they heard the name Geronimo. Years later, of course, Goyafle's nom de guerre came into different use. American parachutists added it to the English language when they cried Geronimo as they leaped from their planes. The exact meaning of their cry is a bit obscure. Old Geronimo, by the way, did not die in battle. He retired to reservation life in order to work on his memoirs and join the Dutch Reformed Church. May I add, there is absolutely no truth to the stories that Geronimo entitled his autobiography. They laughed when I raided a village, and then I changed my name. The idea is absurd.
Well, Philip, it was a terrible moment, wasn't it? Listening to Police Commissioner Matthews telling you over the telephone they knew who killed Corinne Scott, while your mind reached out frantically for some detail you might have overlooked. The bookend. The bottom of the river where it belonged. The affidavit. Carefully burned after you left the apartment. Fingerprints, tire tracks, witnesses. You'd been too careful for that. Then the wonderful words almost made your heart stop. That they had the suspect there with them. Someone else, Philip. They'd made a mistake. A staggering, wonderful mistake. The homicide squad is all over the apartment when you arrive.
Yeah, glad you got here so soon, Phil.
I dropped everything, of course. Where's the suspect?
In the bedroom. You know, Phil, I wish there was some mistake about this.
Huh?
For the first time in my life, I wish I had nothing to do with cracking a case.
What are you talking about?
Bring him in here, boys.
Matthews, what do you mean by that?
I was hoping we'd be wrong. There's just no other answer. And the guy comes walking right out of the victim's house and can't tell why.
David.
Hello, Dad.
He won't say a word.
I was waiting for my father. She called me up early last night, Dad. She said she could tell me something about what happened to Professor Bentley. I came on over and she told me everything.
I see.
It sounded crazy. I told her it was a pack of lies. After I went home last night, I couldn't sleep. That's why I came back here this morning and...
What did she tell you, David?
I've said all I'm going to say.
You know what that means, of course.
I think so. Dad.
Matt.
Yeah, Phil?
You'd better get a stenographer. I've got a story to tell you. A story that begins with Tommy Anderson and ends right here.
Featured in tonight's story were Bill Foreman as the Whistler, Frank Nelson, Jeanette Nolan, Bill Stratton Jr., Hal Gerard, and Herbert Litton. The Whistler was directed by George W. Allen, with story by Joel Malone, music by Wilbur Hatch, and was transmitted overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service. The Whistler was entirely fictional, and all characters portrayed on the Whistler are also fictional. Any similarity of names or resemblance to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
Tune in again next week at the same time for The Whistler. The Whistler has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
A repository of death, a repertorium of violence. Here in the grim stone structure on the Thames, in Charles's Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a carpenter's saw, a manicurist's orange stick, a 10-penny nail, all are touched by murder. Now this, a sheath knife. It's a familiar object. Maybe your son, if he's an outdoor sort of kid, has one. You may have one. If you enjoy wood carving at odd moments, it's a handy tool, a sheath knife. Handy for sailors or truckmen or killers.
Nasty wound. Eh, Doctor?
Very nasty, Inspector. 6 of them. Any one could have been fatal. All very deep through clothing and overcoat.
Then we're looking for a man, Doctor. A man with a lot of strength and a knife.
Well, today you can find that sheath knife, among other honored exhibits, in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Division of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum. In just a moment, you will hear the Black Museum starring Orson Welles. Now, the Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Here we are. This is the Black Museum. Scotland Yard's mausoleum of murder. A functional place with its shelves and cabinets, its glass-topped exhibit tables, and the neat white cards identifying time and place and killing. Yet over the whole thing, a kind of aura, a mystery, as if the manipulators of these weapons still waited to pick them up, just beyond the shadows. Here lies death. 100 deaths, 700 in fact, collected over several generations. Would you call this a weapon? Look here, it's a boot. A leather riding boot, obviously made for a gentleman who rode behind the hound, but another gentleman's pink hunting coat was stained with blood when this boot became a bludgeon. This seems obvious. It's a hypodermic needle. It was once filled with poison. Here we are. Here's the sheath knife I was telling you about. Leather sheath, Sheffield steel, bone handle. It's a pretty instrument in its way. But the story connected with it isn't quite so pretty. It begins one coldish night in November, as a suburban train drew into the dark station at Ilford, a short distance from London. 2 men rose to shrug on overcoats. In the same car, a man and woman rose, too. Evelyn and Fred Winters, shipping clerk and his wife, returning to their little house in Ilford.
Careful, dear. It's dark on the platform.
You might go first, even if you are married to me.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Yes, of course. All right, Evelyn. Come along now. Train will take you on with it.
You'd like that, I expect.
No, we had a nice evening. You're tired now. You wouldn't talk like that. Well, let's walk. I'm a trifle chilly.
He's a patient man, this Fred Winters. He always manages to find excuses for his wife's nagging, but then Evelyn's a bit younger than Fred and quite good-looking in a rather daring manner, you know. One of those tall, vividly colored girls. Excellent figure, which she displays to advantage. Of course, all this was lost on the two men who left the train at the opposite end of the car for Mr. and Mrs. Winters. They stood on the platform for a minute or two, stamping their feet. And the Winters disappeared up the tree-lined street. For a moment or two, the two men followed. Apparently, they'd come to a decision. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter. It was never carried out. They heard... and they ran up the street in the dark, past a single street light to where Evelyn Winters stood and Fred Winters lay.
Someone ran out of the driveway. Then Fred fell. Oh, he's all over black. He's dead. He's dead.
Oh, he was dead, all right. He was quite thoroughly dead, as Inspector Bell put it. It's the man Scotland Yard placed in charge of the case.
Nasty wounds. Eh, Doctor?
Very nasty, Inspector. 6 of them. Any one could have been fatal. All very deep through clothing and overcoat.
Then we're looking for a man, Doctor. A man with a lot of strength and a knife.
Now it begins. The long, slow, painstaking piecing together of a puzzle. Someone with a good deal of strength wielded the 6-inch knife. Step 1. So far, so good. Step 2.
Yes?
I'm Inspector Bell, Mrs. Winters. We met last night near the station.
Yes, I remember. Come in, won't you? I expect you want to ask some questions.
The questions. They'll begin as soon as the widow and the detective inspector are seated in the tiny front room of a shabby little semi-detached house. The inspector glances around, sees no wealth here, that's certain. Dismissed money is the motive.
What did your husband do, Mrs. Winters?
Do? Oh, I see. He was a shipping clerk.
How old was he?
He said 48. I think he was closer to 52.
Did he see service?
Home guard. He was too old for the ground troops, and he had no skills for any of the technical services.
Did Mr. Winters have any enemies that you know of?
Freddie? Enemies? Oh, of course not. He never hurt a fly.
An excellent quality. Gentleness.
Gentleness? Oh, no, Inspector. Fred was meek. Meek and mild, as the old saying goes. Well, he loved me in his way.
There was more of the same, lots more, but nothing to indicate a reason for willful murder. Finally, the inspector decided to call it a day.
Well, I won't bother you any longer today. Oh, yes. If you decide to go away, or anything like that, let us know when and where, won't you, Mrs. Winters?
A considerate man, Inspector Bell, and wise. He had long experience. He never rushed a case or a situation. He knew well that there wasn't any use in that. He returned to the local police station, and there he found a woman and a man waiting for him.
The murder took place right in front of my house, sir.
Did you see anything, ma'am?
No, it was too dark. Our street is very badly lighted. But I heard running in my driveway. Then it sounded like scuffling out front. I went to the window and heard a woman, well, half whisper, "Don't. Oh, don't."
Then she was frightened?
No, sir.
How's that?
It wasn't fright, sir. It was like she was begging someone she knew not to do something. Then I heard running away again, going away. And after that, the screaming.
You're certain the woman was not frightened?
I'm positive, sir. If I'd felt she was.
A tiny bit of testimony, very tiny. Would it stand up in court? How would it impress a jury? What would a good defense counsel do with it on cross-examination? Well, it was weak, but it was interesting. Quite interesting. And there was a man waiting at the station house for Inspector Bell with a woman. Man introduced himself.
I'm Stanley Winters, Inspector. Fred was my brother. I don't want to get anybody into trouble, sir, but there are a few facts my sister-in-law may forget to mention. Women are like that at times.
Facts? Such as, Mr. Winters?
There's a man who disliked my brother intensely. A ship's steward, James Davis.
And the cause of this dislike?
My brother threw him out of the house.
For what reason?
Fred thought that this Davis was, making passes at Evelyn. Fred mentioned it to me once or twice.
Your brother must have been fairly sure to take such action. Incidentally, what was this Davis doing in the house in the first place?
We knew Evelyn's family as a boy. He was quite friendly with Fred and Evelyn at first. Went off on a holiday with them to Brighton. Between sailings it was. Then he moved in. Fred had a spare room and could use the money. But after a while, Fred didn't like Davis's attitude towards Evelyn, so he threw him out.
Is there anything else, Mr. Winters?
Nothing I can think of, sir. This was just a point I thought you ought to know.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. We'll probably be in touch with you. Good night.
Good night.
Sergeant? Yes, sir. Pick up order, Sergeant, for James Davis, ship's steward. Check crew lists of all lines carrying passengers or using stewards. And don't let Mrs. Winters learn that we know about Miss Davis. Not yet, at any rate.
Beg pardon. You James Davis, steward aboard the Morania?
I am. So what?
I'm from Scotland Yard. My credentials.
What do you want with me?
I'd like to have a talk with you before your ship sails. Sailing date's 3 days off, we understand.
That's right. What do you want to talk with me for?
A friend of yours has been killed. Name of Fred Winters.
What? Freddie dead? How? Where?
The inspector will tell you all that. Shall we go now, Davis? I've seen your first officer already. He knows what's going on. This is James Davis, Inspector.
How do you do, Mr. Davis?
Well, not so good. What with the news and all. Who killed Freddie, Inspector?
We'd like to find out. Perhaps you can help us. Sit down, won't you?
Thanks.
Yes, Sergeant, take care of Mr. Davis' overcoat. Hang it up in the outer office for him.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. It is a bit warm in here.
And, Sergeant, deliver this note to Dr. Arnold, will you?
Yes, sir.
Now then, Mr. Davis, perhaps you'll tell
Yes, Mr. Davis, perhaps you will tell us where you were last night between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
I was with Evelyn Winters' family. I've known them since I was a boy.
Well, that fits with Stanley Winters' story, doesn't it? And what about Evelyn Winters and Fred, Mr. Davis? You knew them well, didn't you?
Matter of fact, Inspector, I had a room with them. Until poor old Freddie got the idea that Evelyn and I were a bit too friendly. It wasn't true, naturally, sir. But I figured it'd be better all round if I cleared out. So I did.
Perfectly natural. Don't cause your childhood friend any trouble. If her husband is jealous, lives somewhere else. So simple, so proper. It was just about then that the telephone on the inspector's desk added its voice to the situation.
Inspector Bell here?
Arnold speaking. Bill, you've got good eyes. Sergeant Holloway is here with a fellow's overcoat. He gave me your note. I made only the first test, but there's no doubt in my mind. That stain you spotted on the sleeve, it's blood, all right. No question about it.
Well, today you can find that sheath knife, among other honored exhibits, in the Black Museum.
In just a moment, we will continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Would you care for a touch of international chicanery? Orson Welles portrays the roguish crook Harry Lime, a clever thief, continually in the middle of an international hijinks. Be with him each week as he darts back and forth across the line of the law. Be in on his sophisticated plans, which always end with someone getting conned. Join KUOW Thursday evenings at 9:30 as we present The Lives of Harry Lime. But hang on to your radio. You may have that by Friday morning.
we continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
They kept what they knew from Jimmy Davis and from Evelyn Winters. Scotland Yard has a habit of not breaking news until they're certain of the facts. And blood on the cuff of an overcoat is only one fact. The rest was guessing. That's not enough. They drew other items from Jimmy Davis that day before they finished with his overcoat and with him.
As I said, Inspector, I spent the evening with Evelyn's family. I've been doing that during my time ashore for years. I left them about 11 o'clock. It was something of a problem getting back to London. The trains out Manor Parkway aren't very frequent after 11. When I finally made it back to Victoria Station, the last train out my way was gone. I didn't have the cab fare, so I walked all the way home. Didn't get in until after 2 in the morning.
Quite straightforward, very logical, honestly told. To Inspector Bell, it seemed, well, just a little too honest. He asked Jimmy Davis to wait around a bit, and then he consulted with Sergeant Holloway.
A railway map, Sergeant. Here's the line that runs out to Manor Park.
He was there, sir. Mrs. Winter's family confirmed that. And the time Davis said he left them.
If there were anything to our idea, he'd never tell us about it if he couldn't confirm it. But he must have known it was a problem, as he said, to get back to London.
Well, how does that fit, sir?
He could have left a little earlier, but he didn't. Now, look here, on the map.
Yes, look closely, Sergeant. What do you see? The inspector's pointing.
Ilford. The next stop after Manor Park, going toward London. I see what you mean, Inspector.
It might be quite simple. Board a train at Manor Park with a ticket for London, hop off the next stop, Ilford, knowing that Fred and Evelyn Winters will be on the midnight train down from London, wait in a dark driveway. Yes, it might be quite simple. The inspector thinks so, too.
I think we'll ask Davis to stay here a day or two. His ship doesn't sail until day after tomorrow. Meanwhile, Sergeant, we'll get ourselves a warrant, and you can give his lodgings a thorough going over.
Sergeant Holloway took 3 men with him and gave Jimmy Davis his furnished room a very thorough going over.
Take everything apart, men. Put it all back together again so the fellow won't know we've been here. We're looking for any article of clothing with a trace of blood on it. And for a knife about 6 inches long. Also, watch for evidence of Davis's associations with women.
3 points. Blood, a knife, and women. On point 1...
Everything's clean. He must have missed the stain the inspector spotted on his overcoat.
On point 2...
Nothing. Absolutely nothing to indicate the man ever touched a knife.
And as for point 3...
It's a gold mine, Inspector. Davis had a special box full of letters. I didn't take the time to read them. One look at the signature on all of them was enough.
Ever yours, Evelyn.
Interesting reading. Not nice, but interesting. Darlingest, I can't explain it. I looked up digitalis in a medical dictionary at the library. It's a cumulative poison. Put it in Freddy's tea, but it had no effect. He just complained that it tasted.
I've given it to him for a week now. I'm afraid to make the doses any larger. But I'll think of something else because I cannot live without seeing him. I took an electric bulb and broke it and powdered the glass. Freddie likes lots of sugar, and I never use sugar. Maybe this will work. I think he suspects I'm up to something. The glass didn't work either. Be patient, darling. He'll never give me a divorce.
But I'll find a way. No one will ever suspect. There must be a way. We've got to be together, and we shall be as we were once. Only without fear. Ever yours, Evelyn.
Nice girl, wasn't she? Poison, powdered glass. Ever yours, Evelyn. Inspector Bell called in Sergeant Holloway.
Yes, sir?
The letters. They'll go fine in court after we put the two of them together someplace and after we've found the weapon.
Davis says he hasn't seen her in months, and she insists on the same thing.
In one of the letters, she mentions meeting him at a tea room in the city. I'll cover that. You get down to Southampton to the Morania. Talk to the crew. Get everything you can on Davis. Check?
Yes, sir. Check.
In the tea room, Inspector Bell found an obliging waitress with an excellent memory.
Tall, you say, sir? Auburn hair? Greenish eyes? Well, now, let me think a minute, sir. Yes, there was a woman comes in here, very good looking. If you like that kind of colouring.
Many men do?
Well, one man does. The one that comes in here with this woman. Afternoons mostly, from early tea. He's young. Younger than she is, that's my guess. Very nice looking.
Have you heard any names?
Once, it was... Yes, once I heard her call him Jimmy, darling.
I see. Tell me, have they been in here recently? Say, in the last day or so?
Oh, I think so. I seem to remember... Yes, the day before yesterday it was.
Do you think you know them again? In a crowd, perhaps?
Yes, sir. I'm sure now. Why, sir? Are they in trouble with the police? I wouldn't want to put nobody in trouble, not if I could help it.
In trouble with the police? Oh, well, a little. Just a little. If you call a growing sum of evidence in a murder case trouble. And it was growing. Sergeant Holloway went to Southampton.
I gather from some of the other men that Davis was never too sociable, right? Ever show you any of his hobbies?
Well, he didn't have any that I know of.
Not, say, wood carving or anything like that?
Oh, I never saw him use a knife on wood.
Oh, he owned a knife.
Oh, yes, sir. Slick-looking blade it was. Carried it in a sheath on his belt. He liked to keep it pretty sharp, too.
I see. Well, thank you, Carter. Thank you very much.
But there are two themes here. They must be resolved together. A woman who followed the pattern of a sly, careful poisoner. A man who once owned a sheath knife. The planning of a careful crime. The execution of a crime of violence. Did the two themes come together on that midnight street in Ilford? Was Jimmy Davis waiting behind the hedges? Did Evelyn Winters know he was there? Know that she was leading her husband to his death? There were answers to these questions somewhere. Inspector Bell went quietly and methodically about the business of getting those answers.
I'm glad you will come in to see us, Mrs. Winters. I've been hoping you'd be able to help us.
That's so, Inspector. I wish I could help you.
My office is just along this hall. Yes, we're rather up a tree, and a most difficult kind of case. Unless we can find someone with a motive somewhere, it may go unsolved. Oh, there's Sergeant Holloway.
Sergeant Holloway?
Yes, you remember him. He's working with me. He may have a question or two. There he is, in this office with the glass panel door, talking to someone.
Oh, no. Jimmy.
And what time did you actually...
Come in a minute, Mrs. Winters.
No. No, I won't. I know the man Sergeant Holloway is talking to. He knows me.
Yes, Mrs. Winters? We know he knows you.
Jimmy told you?
I asked the question, Mrs. Winters. Are you in love with Jimmy Davis? Did you plan to kill your husband that night in Ilford?
Oh.
We know a lot, Mrs. Winters. We want to know. If you held your husband while Davis stabbed him, did you decoy your husband? Did you tell Davis to be there? How long have you been in love with him? How long have you tried to...
Questions. They came thick and fast. Now the inspector took her into his office. The stenographer waited. She was warned, and the questions poured out around her. She sat there, pinioned by the inspector's quiet voice. Until...
All right, I'll tell you. I was in love with Jimmy, but I didn't plan the murder. Jimmy did that. He did it on his own. He jumped out to the driveway and struggled with poor Freddie. Fred fell down. Jimmy ran away. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing.
A nice girl, a really nice girl with willpower. They showed her the letters in her own handwriting, but she stuck to her story.
I had nothing to do with it. Nothing.
And Jimmy Davis was still in love with this woman. Jimmy denied the letters, too.
Evelyn didn't know a thing. I waited for them. I wanted to make Fred give her a divorce. He tried to hit me, and we fought.
I used the knife. It was self-defense, but I got scared. I threw the knife into the sewer grating and ran away. Evelyn didn't know a thing. We didn't see each other for months.
What about the waitress who'll identify you, Jim Davis? What about your buddy and his story of the sharpening of the knife? What about the letters? What about the woman? Is she worth it?
Evelyn didn't know a thing. She had nothing to do with it.
Sorry, Davis. It's no use. You'll be tried together, and the chances are you'll hang together.
Well, that's the story. That's how they wound up the case. And today, in case you're interested, you'll find that sheath knife in the Black Museum.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment. Here in person is Orson Welles.
Murder is always ugly. And in this case, the motive was heedless, reckless passion. And the ugliness was amplified by the long planning, the cruelty, and finally, by the end of the story, Evelyn Winters died badly, unable even to manage the numbness of fatality which comes to so many murderers on the scaffold. She collapsed, had to be carried to the gallows, supported there by 2 jailers. The hangman, by the way, resigned his job shortly afterwards. And to the end, despite the letters, despite the evidence, Jim Davis tried to take all the blame on himself. But justice and death both were equal in this case. And the sheath knife remains in its customary place in Scotland Yard, the Black Museum. Now, until next time, till another story about the Black Museum, I remain, as always, obediently yours.
The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles, is presented by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Radio Attraction. The program is written by Ira Marion, with music composed and conducted by Sidney Torch. Produced by Harry Allen Towers.
Mutual presents The Mysterious Traveler.
This is The Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can, as you hear the story I call Death Writes a Letter. My story begins last summer in the townhouse of Martin Drake, a well-known financier. Martin is deep in argument with his older brother, John, as his daughter, Susan, enters the room unnoticed.
John, how can you possibly believe in such things? Spiritualism, nonsense is a better word for it.
To a skeptic, everything is nonsense. But if you'd seen and heard what I have, you too would believe.
Hello, Father. Uncle John.
Hello, Susan.
I see you two are up to your old argument.
Well, your father's a very stubborn man, Susan.
Well, I may be stubborn, but I'm no fool. Imagine believing in spiritualism, telepathy, and all that Tommy rot.
I believe in spiritualism, Martin, and that the living can communicate with the dead. And nothing you can say will swerve me from my beliefs.
Uncle John, in all these years you've been studying spiritualism, have you ever been able to communicate with Aunt Judith?
No, Susan, I haven't. But there have been times late at night when I've all but broken through the barrier that separates us.
Oh, I give up. There's no use in arguing with a man who has an obsession.
Oh, that's fine, Father. Now the three of us can go into supper.
Oh, I'm sorry, Susan, but I can't stay for supper.
Oh, why not?
I have an appointment with an onoricritic.
A what?
An onoricritic, a man who's an interpreter of dreams.
John, good grief, don't tell me you believe in that, too.
Why not, Martin? For years, psychoanalysts have interpreted dreams in an effort to help their patients. The subconscious minds of the living can sometimes bridge the vast gap of death.
Now, John, I'm warning you, if you don't give up this obsession of yours, there's no telling how you'll end.
I know you think I'm cracked, that all the years I've spent studying spiritualism have been wasted, but you're wrong. The living and the dead can communicate with each other, and someday you'll realize I'm right. Now, I really must be going, or I'll be late.
Well, Uncle John, you will drive up to the country with Father this weekend, won't you?
Oh, are you opening the summer place?
Yes, I'm driving up tomorrow to open a house and engage some servants.
Well, I'll try my best to join your father this weekend.
Oh, that's fine.
Don't bother showing me the door. Good night.
Good night, Uncle John.
Good night. To think that anyone in this day and age still believes in spiritualism, particularly your Uncle John, it's incredible.
I don't know, Father. Uncle John seems so sure of himself that sometimes I feel he may be right.
Oh, Susan, that's nonsense.
But look, Father, if it's all nonsense, why should Uncle John believe in it? You yourself have often said he's the most brilliant man you know.
And he is. It's just that, well, we all have our eccentricities, and John's is spiritualism. Until his wife died 5 years ago, he was just as sane as you or I. No living person has ever communicated with the dead, and none ever will.
Father, are you awake? Father?
What? Oh, Susan, come in, dear, come in.
Oh, I'm sorry if I woke you, Father.
Oh, it's all right. What time is it?
It's just 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock? Well, what are you doing up and dressed so early?
I'm driving up to the country to open our summer place. Have you forgotten, Father?
Oh, yes, so you are.
Oh, didn't you sleep well last night, Father? There's circles under your eyes.
No, I spent a very poor night. I had a nightmare, but I can't seem to remember what it was about.
Oh, I'm sorry, Father. Tell me, is there anything I can get you?
No, I'll be all right. You run along.
Oh, I need the keys to the car.
Oh, yes, you'll find them over there on my desk. And if you need any money, help yourself.
Oh, thank you, Father, but I have enough money.
Have you found the keys?
Oh, yes, here they are. Oh, do you want me to mail this letter on your desk?
What letter?
Well, this one. It isn't addressed. All that's written on the envelope is one word. Urgent.
Urgent?
Yes, and it's in your handwriting, see?
Why, I never wrote that.
But, Father, it is your handwriting. Oh, look, there are ink stains on your fingers. You must have written it before you went to bed.
But I tell you, I didn't. Let me see that letter. Yes, that's my handwriting, all right.
Oh, Father, I'm leaving now. I want to get there by noon.
What? Oh, yes. Goodbye, dear. Take care of yourself.
I will, darling. Bye.
Urgent. And it's my handwriting, all right. But for the life of me, I can't remember. Well, let's see. Dear Martin. What the devil? A letter in my own handwriting addressed to me. Dear Martin. No. No, this can't be. It can't. Martin, is anything wrong? I came as quickly as I could. You sounded so upset over the phone. Dr. Weil, I'm afraid my mind is giving way.
You, Martin? You're the last person in the world to become unbalanced.
Well, that's what I thought until I read this letter.
Letter?
Yes, and it's in my handwriting, so I must have written it.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
When I woke up an hour ago, this letter was on my desk. I could see it was my handwriting, And yet I don't remember having written it.
You don't remember having written?
No, and yet I must have. There are still ink stains on my fingers.
Martin, none of this makes sense.
Yes, I know.
What's in the letter?
I'll read it to you. Dear Martin.
Wait a minute. You mean it's in your handwriting, but it's addressed to you?
Yes, but it's signed with the name of my brother John.
Signed by John. In your writing?
Exactly.
You better read me that letter. Maybe then I can understand this.
Dear Martin, this letter will undoubtedly give you quite a shock. But after you finish reading it,
I'm quite sure you'll understand why it was written. After I left Susan and you a few hours ago, I went to keep my appointment with the dream interpreter I'd spoken to you about. It was shortly before midnight that I returned to my home. As usual, I found Martha and Paul waiting up for me.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. John.
Oh, Martha, what are you doing up so late? I told you never to wait up for me after 10 o'clock.
Well, we worry about you. You know what the doctor said about your heart.
You should have been in bed an hour ago.
You both treat me as though I were a 6-year-old.
And sometimes you act like one. Well, I have a glass of warm milk for you in the pantry.
I don't want any milk.
It's good for you. Here, let me have your coat.
Oh, thank you, Paul. It feels good to be home, sitting in the chair before the fire.
Here's your warm milk, Mr. John, and I want you to drink it down without any arguments. After all, it's for your own good. Here, take... Mr. John? Mr. John?
Martha, what's wrong?
Oh, Mr. John.
Mr. John. Mr. John, answer me. He's dead.
Oh.
Now, please, Martha, please, you mustn't cry. The end came very quickly, peacefully. Now, there, Martha, there.
It came as quite a shock, Martin, hearing myself declared dead, but as I saw my earthly body sitting in the armchair by the fireplace, I knew it was true. John Drake was dead. I wanted to comfort Paul and Martha, make them understand that only the body of John Drake was dead, that the spirit would live forever. I wanted to tell them that I was indescribably happy, for I knew without knowing how that on the following day I should be reunited with my dear wife, Judith. Then my thoughts turned to you, Martin, and in one brief moment I saw your past, your present, and your future. Your future left me horrified, Martin, for in it I saw unhappiness and death. I felt that somehow I had to warn you of what the future held. I left the house I had died in and went to your home. The radio was playing. You were sitting in an easy chair reading a book, unaware of what the future held for you. Martin, you must listen to me. Martin, look up from that book you're reading. You must. But I couldn't reach you with my words. There was too great a distance between us. I stood by, helpless to aid you. A few minutes later, you yawned, closed the book, and turned off the radio. A half hour later, you were in bed and asleep. And then I suddenly had hope. I couldn't reach you while you were awake, Martin, but while you slept, perhaps I could reach your subconscious, warn you about the future. I saw your desk with writing paper on it, and I knew that was the only way to reach you. I spoke softly, trying to reach your subconscious. Martin, listen to me. This is John. You must hear me, for it's a matter of life and death. You must do exactly as I say. I want you to get out of bed. That's it. Throw back the covers. Now put your feet on the floor. Martin, do as I say. That's right. Now go to your desk. That's fine. Now sit down. That's it. Pick up the pen that's on the desk. Martin, pick up the pen. That's right. You picked up the pen and began to write as I dictated. Everything up to this point explains how this letter was written. And now, the reason for it. In looking into the future, I was horrified to see that Susan would die the night of June 7th, 1947, at exactly 6 o'clock. That means you must act swiftly, Martin, for she has less than 24 hours to live. If you don't, she will be found frozen to death. As for yourself, I see you dying as the result of an accident in a small, roughly furnished room. In this room is a desk calendar, and the date it shows as you lie dying is September 3rd, 1947. Martin, the love I bear you and your daughter has reached out from another world to warn you
against the future. I pray that you will act upon this information and save yourselves. Your brother, John.
That's the most extraordinary letter I ever heard.
Well, what do you make of it, Doctor?
You sure this is your handwriting?
Certain of it. And then there are these ink stains on my fingers.
Yes. It's amazing.
It's obvious that I wrote this letter last night in my sleep. What upsets me is the content of the letter. The things I wrote are so fantastic that I'm afraid I may be losing my mind.
No. I'm quite sure you're sane, Martin.
Well, then how do you account for my writing such a fantastic letter even in my sleep?
Has it occurred to you that this fantastic letter, as you call it, may not be fantastic?
What? Now, Henry, you're not trying to tell me that you believe that this letter is true. That my brother John did die last night and came here. Surely you don't believe in all that Tommy rot.
Then your explanation for that letter is that you wrote it while having a nightmare?
Well, of course. What other answer could there be? It's ridiculous to think that you, a man of science, could attach any credence to this letter even for a moment. You amaze me.
There have been many phenomena in history. Phenomena that never could be explained. Not even by science.
Oh, you're almost as bad as my brother. Soon you'll be telling me that you, too, believe in spiritualism.
Have you called up your brother this morning?
Why, no. Why should I have? Oh, you think he may have died last night as he wrote me in this letter? Doctor, I think you'd better see a doctor.
I suggest you call your brother.
Well, all right, I will, just to show you what a fool you are for believing even for a moment that there can be anything to this letter. Why, when John was here last night, he looked just as healthy... hello, Paul. This is Mr. Drake. Is my brother there? What? Last night? After he returned home? I see. Thank you, Paul.
He is dead. Isn't he?
Yes. Paul said that he died last night.
If your brother died last night, then this letter must have been written by him through your subconscious after...
No, that can't be. What you're saying is madness. The dead can't communicate with the living.
Yeah, but in this letter, your brother speaks of his death last night and goes on to tell...
My brother couldn't have written that letter through my subconscious. Such things can't happen.
I wish I felt as certain as you do. What about this part of the letter? In looking into the future, I was horrified to see that Susan would die the night of June 7th, 1947, at exactly 6 o'clock in the evening. That means you must act swiftly, Martin, for she has less than 12 hours to live. If you don't, she'll be found frozen to death.
And that proves how fantastic the whole letter is. Today is June 7th, and outside it's like summer. How could Susan possibly be frozen to death?
I don't know, Martin. But if Susan were my daughter, I think I'd want to be with her tonight at 6 o'clock. You'd never be able to forgive yourself if anything would have happened to her. I'll go with you if you like.
Oh, very well. But mind you, I still don't believe that John wrote this letter through my subconscious. What time is it, Henry?
It's a few minutes after 6.
If we hadn't had the breakdown, we'd have been there hours ago.
How much further is it?
As soon as we reach the top of this hill, you'll be able to see it.
I wish we'd reached the house before 6.
Now, surely you don't believe what that letter says. How could Susan possibly freeze to death? Why, it's a warm evening. It's like summer.
Yes, I know, but just the same, I wish we'd arrived sooner.
Look, you can see the house now, down there in the valley. Susan's probably getting dinner. And we'll certainly look like a pair of fools coming up here because of that ridiculous letter.
I hope you're right.
Henry, Susan isn't in the room.
She isn't?
No.
Could she be in the village or visiting friends?
No. You're forgetting her car is parked in front of the house.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, where can she be?
I'm afraid I can't answer that.
I'll search the second and third floors while you search this floor in the cellar. She must be someplace in the house. Henry, where are you?
Down in the cellar, Martin.
I searched every room on the second and third floor, but I couldn't find a sign of her.
I found her, Martin.
You found her? Well, where is she? Susan.
You must prepare yourself for a shock.
Shock?
Martin, listen to me. I found her in the cold storage room, frozen to death.
No. She can't be dead.
But she is, Martin. From what I could make out, she turned on the freezing system full and then went inside to store some meats, probably right after she got here. While she was in there, the door slammed shut, locked her in.
Oh, Susan. If only I'd gotten here in time.
Martin, for weeks now you've been like this. Now you must get hold of yourself. You'll break down. You did everything you could to save Susan.
No, that's just it. I didn't. John reached me from beyond the grave to warn me about the future, but I merely laughed. Had I heeded his letter, Susan would be alive today.
But, Martin, you did try to get there in time. It wasn't your fault the car broke down.
Yes, but if I'd believed in the letter, I'd have hired another car and kept going instead of waiting for my car to be repaired.
You know, I've been thinking perhaps it was meant that your car should break down. That you should arrive too late to save Susan.
What?
Perhaps it was wrong of John to break through the barrier that separates the living from the dead and warn you of the future.
Well, how could it be wrong if it would have saved Susan?
Perhaps it was ordained that Susan was to die when she did. And that's why the car broke down.
No. I could have saved her if only I'd hired another car and rushed on to my country home. But at least now I can heed John's warning and save my own life.
Save your own life?
Yes. Have you forgotten the other part of the letter? As for yourself, Martin, I see you dying as the result of an accident in a small, roughly furnished room. In this room is a desk calendar, and the date it shows as you lie dying is September 3rd, 1947. Today is August 1st. That means I have less than 5 weeks to live. Unless I can save myself.
But how can you save yourself, Martin? What's meant to be will be.
Not if I'm clever enough to take advantage of the information in this letter. Dying as a result of an accident in a small, roughly furnished room. Yes, but if John had only told me what kind of an accident it was meant to be. Well, nevertheless, come what may, I'm not going to die on September 3rd.
Just a minute. Hey, Martin, what's going on? I mean, what's the meaning of all those men around the house? Why was I searched before I entered the room?
Henry, do you know what the date is?
Why, yes, it's September 2nd.
Yes, and in a few minutes it will be midnight, and then it will be September 3rd.
Oh, yes, that's right. The letter.
In the letter, John warns me that I shall die of an accident in a small, roughly furnished room. Well, you'd hardly call this drawing room that, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
It's my intention to remain in this room until tomorrow is past. Now, Henry, would you mind keeping me company for the next 24 hours?
No, Martin, not at all.
See, I've taken every possible precaution to prevent an accident from occurring. I've removed everything from this room but that sofa, chair, and table. And I have food in here to last me for several days. I have guards around this house and outside this room to prevent anyone from entering for the next 24 hours.
It certainly sounds as though you've taken every precaution.
Yes, I've done everything I could think of. Henry, do you hear that? It's just midnight. September 3rd is here.
Martin, will you stop looking at your watch every other second?
I can't help it. One more minute and it'll be midnight. And when the clock in the hallway strikes, it'll be September 4th.
Yes, Martin, yes. Now, why don't you sit down and take it easy?
How can I at a time like this?
Martin, you must calm down. Think of your heart.
Only 30 seconds more, Henry. 30 seconds.
Martin, you're as white as a sheet.
Well, who wouldn't be? I'm cheating death. I'm going to live. Live, do you hear?
Easy there now. I can't help feeling it would have been better if John hadn't warned you about the future.
No, don't say that. If he hadn't, I'd have been dead by now. That's it. Henry, do you hear that? It's midnight. And I'm still alive. Alive.
For some weeks, Martin Drake was a sick man as the result of the strain he'd undergone. But with the coming of fall, he was well on the road to recovery. It was in late autumn that he invited Dr. Warren to go hunting with him in Maine. Day after day, the two men, with their guide, roamed the woods. The exercise and outdoor life did Martin a world of good, and he was soon his former self, both physically and mentally.
It seems to be getting much colder, doesn't it?
Yes, it feels very much like snow.
I think it'll hold off for a while yet. Like to do a little more hunting, Mr. Drake? We still got a couple of hours till it gets dark.
Yes, I wouldn't mind. How about you, Henry?
Well, by all means. Maybe we'll come across that buck we spotted this morning.
Yes, he was a big fellow. Where'd I put my rifle?
Here it is, Mr. Drake, under the tree.
Oh, yes, so it is.
Here's your rifle, Doc.
This rifle of mine...
Oh, Martin, what happened?
Good grief, he shot himself, Doc.
Martin, are you badly hurt?
The gun went off when I picked it up on my shoulder.
Easy now. Want to have a look at it?
Oh.
Is it bad, Doc?
No, not bad. We must get him to a shelter and stop this bleeding.
Ed Tolliver's place about a quarter of a mile from here, Doc.
All right, give me a hand. We gotta get him there at once. Now, put him down gently on the cot. Easy now. That's it.
How is he, Doc? Think he'll pull through?
Yeah, of course. He just fainted from the pain and the loss of blood. Now, let's see.
Sure is a nasty wound.
Yeah. Fortunately, the bullet went on through his shoulder. I won't have to probe for it.
Oh.
What are you going to do to him, Doc?
Well, first I'll have
Henry,
to...
where am I?
Now, just lie still, Martin. We brought you to this shack where I can fix you up.
Oh, my shoulder hurts.
It'll be all right now once I get the bullet wound cleaned up. Pete, put my medical bag on this desk here. Open it, will you?
Sure, Doc.
Will you have to probe for the bullet?
No. Fortunately, it went right through. All I have to do is clean the wound. It may hurt a bit, Martin.
That's all right, Henry. Go ahead.
Maybe you better turn your face away from me so you won't see what I'm doing. Sometimes it's easier that way. Concentrate on the desk over there, huh?
All right.
Pete, hand me that tube of sulfur powder.
Yep.
Also the...
Henry!
What is it, Martin?
That calendar.
What calendar?
There on the desk. Don't you see?
Yes.
Do you see what date it has? September 3rd.
I guess that's the day Ed Tolliver went back to the city.
September 3rd.
Martin, you mustn't get excited.
Do you remember what the letter said? Henry, this is it.
Oh, Martin, no, you'll be all right if only you'll
After
count.
an accident. This room is small, roughly furnished. And the desk calendar does show September 3rd, 1947. Henry, it's all as John said it would be. I haven't cheated death. He's here in this room. He's come to take me. He's come to...
Doc, what's wrong?
He's dead.
Dead? But it was only a shoulder wound. You said he pulled through.
Yes, but I was wrong. Shot killed him. I guess nothing can save a man when it's ordained he die. Death came to Martin Drake as it was foredoomed to come. Again. Too bad about Martin and Susan, wasn't it? Even John Drake's warning from another world couldn't save them. Which seems to prove that when your time comes, nothing you can do can change it. So you might as well not worry about it. So I did know of a man who managed to outwit death for
several hundred years, then one day he was... Oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this time.
You have just heard The Mysterious Traveler, a series of dramas of the strange and terrifying. In today's story, all the characters were fictional, and any resemblance to the name of an actual person, living or dead, was purely coincidental. In the cast were Maurice Tarplin, Roger DeCoven, Eric Dressler, and Bryna Rayburn. Original music was played by Paul Taubman. The Mysterious Traveler is written, produced, and directed by Robert J. Arthur and David Kogan. Listen next week to a tale titled
Death is My Co-Pilot.
Another strange and suspenseful tale of the Mysterious Traveler. Your Mysterious Traveler has turned Arthur. Yes, Maurice Tarplin has penned a chilling tale titled 7 Casks of Death, which appears in the current issue of Dime Mystery magazine, one of the popular publications group, now on sale at your local newsstand. Don't miss it. This program has come to you from our New York studios. Another program of tense and dramatic action will follow in just a minute. Stay tuned to the station for Official Detective. Carl Caruso speaking. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Strange Wills. Starring the distinguished Hollywood actor Warren Williams, and featuring Marvin Miller and Lorene Tuttle, with Howard Culver and an all-star Hollywood cast. Original music by Del Castillo. Dead men's wills are often strange. We cannot attempt to understand them or try to find the answers. We can but tell the story.
This is Warren Williams bringing you the story East of Hudson's Bay. But first...
And now back to Warren Williams as John Francis O'Connell in East of Hudson's Bay.
If I spend my winters in sunny California or balmy Florida, well, it's not without just cause, I can assure you. Once and only once, I had the very dubious pleasure of visiting a client east of Hudson's Bay. Oh, it wasn't a pleasure trip, believe me. Only the direst of circumstances made me go. It all started in the crispy month of October. It was one of those rare fall days, Indian summer, in fact, when the lovely, young, and headstrong Angela Nelson came into my office to see me.
Imagine, John. Just imagine me falling heir to a 10,000-acre ranch. It's the most thrilling thing that ever happened to me.
Well, Angela, inheriting a ranch that size is about all that's left for you to get. Your grandfather gave you one fortune. Then your father made you sole heir of his estate. And now your uncle comes through with a ranch. But there's a catch, Angela. There's a catch.
A catch? Oh, you're fooling, John. Here it is down in black and white. Now, wait a minute. I'll read it to you. To Angela Nelson, my beloved niece, I devise and bequeath a parcel of land consisting of approximately 10,000 acres.
Uh-huh. The interesting part is still to come, Angela. Remember, I wrote the will.
All right, I shall continue. Said tract of land is situated between the Leaf River on the north and the St. George River on the south in the province of Quebec.
Suppose you tell me, young lady, if you have any idea where the Leaf River is.
Well, it's in Quebec, of course. It says so right here.
Your education has been sadly neglected. You've never learned how big Quebec really is. Look, here's a map of Canada. Now then, let's find Leaf River.
Hey, you're trying to find the North Pole.
No, not at all. Oh, here it is. There. See it?
Terry must have used it as a jumping-off place and is rid of the pole.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, Angela, but you may rest assured that you won't die of heat prostration even in the middle of summer.
Oh, you're being facetious. Look at all the towns on the map around Leaf River. People must live there.
Oh, people live there, all right. Fur trappers, Indians, woodsmen. At least a dozen in every town, I'd say.
Well, this is only October. October the 5th. Can't be too cold up there in Leaf River yet. I tell you what I want you to do for me.
Order a team of huskies and a sled.
No. Order a private plane. Here, charter a plane for me. I want to see my ranch. I want to go to Leaf River tomorrow.
Well, after all, it's your ranch, and I can't stop you from going. But promise you'll be back in 2 weeks, Angela. I don't want to have to go up there and dig you out of the snow.
I promise.
All right. I'll order a plane to take you to, let's see. Here's a town called Lac du Flambeau.
Sounds like red flannel shirt from He-Man.
An adventure east of Hudson's Bay. All thrown in for the price of one plane ticket.
Oh, it's worth it.
But watch out, young lady. I've heard tales of those rugged French-Canadian women.
Oh, John, you are old-fashioned, aren't you? Men are men, no matter where you find them. You better read more of Kipling.
Men are men, all right. But some men aren't as easy to handle as others.
Aren't as easy to handle? Well, John, you've never seen Angela Nelson in action.
And Angela really went into action. Less than 48 hours after our conversation, she was in Quebec.
How's lunch, Commissioner, Miss Nelson? I can only tell you that you've picked out a rugged assignment. But I can see that you're determined to make the trip to your uncle's property. So I've sent for the best guide east of Hudson's Bay. He'll be here any minute.
Well, thank you, Commissioner McTavish.
One thing about him, though, he hasn't much use for, well, shall we say, women who neither toil nor spin.
Oh, he wants them rough and ready. Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean. But then Pierre is a man of the North Country. You'll be perfectly safe with him. Neither one of us will have to worry.
My God, where is this commissioner? Why he sent for Pierre Baptiste Leblanc this time of today, huh?
Come in, Pierre, come in.
My God, I am it.
Pierre, this is Miss Nelson, Miss Angela Nelson.
Oh, my God, Commissioner. She's a pretty woman.
Thank you, Pierre.
Pierre, Miss Nelson is going to take a trip into the interior. She wants you to be her guide.
Oh, she wants me to be her guide. Sacre bleu. Since when does the great Pierre Baptiste Leblanc, the finest trapper in all the North Country, act as nursemaid to such an enfant, such a child?
What?
No, Commissioner. I have more important things to do. Excuse me, please.
Pierre, wait a minute. I want to speak to you alone.
I'll wait outside here.
Well, Pierre? Or shall I say Pierre Baptiste Leblanc, greatest trapper of the whole North Country? We are alone. The enfant and you.
Do not take offense, mademoiselle. What I say about the nursemaid. Only you are so small, too lovely to go into the forest. I would have to carry you like a papoose.
Pierre, did you ever hear of the Vikings?
The Vikings? No, mademoiselle.
Well, the Vikings, Pierre, came to this country when there were no people. They were big men, Pierre, bigger even than you.
Bigger than me? Pierre Baptiste Leblanc is 6 feet 4 inches, and he weighs 260 pounds.
And they were braver than you, Pierre, because they had no guns, only spears.
These Vikings had only spears to kill the caribou and the bear? Oh, Oh, you joke, mademoiselle.
I tell you the truth, Pierre. And one more thing. They respected their women because they, too, were brave and afraid of nothing.
My God, I would like to meet one of these women. They kill caribou and bear with a spear. Oh, sacre bleu, that is the woman for Pierre Baptiste Leblanc.
You have met one, Pierre. I am a descendant of the Vikings.
You?
Yes.
Oh, sacre bleu, you are but a what you say, little fawn, afraid of the shadows, no?
I'm going to show you, Pierre, that size is of little importance. That I can do anything you can do. Now then, you are going to go with me, and we're starting tomorrow morning.
Starting tomorrow morning?
Now, here's $200. Buy what's necessary for the trip. If you need more, I'll be at the home of Commissioner McTavish. Is everything clear?
By gar. Maybe Pierre Baptiste Leblanc is wrong. Maybe you are what you call Viking girl, yeah? Maybe you're brave like French Canadian, eh? Oh, I find out. You like the woods, mademoiselle? For 3 days now you have seen nothing but pine trees, a swift river, the caribou, and the elk.
Oh, it's wonderful, Pierre, wonderful.
And tomorrow morning we reach the Leaf River. How long you stay?
Oh, only for a day or two. I promise to be back in the States in 2 weeks.
Oh, mademoiselle, smells the air, filled with the smell of pine and balsam. Soon will come big snow. Then Pierre will set the traps.
What do you catch, Pierre?
Oh, mink, northern sable, ermine, the weasel. All of them live here on the right forest.
But don't you ever get lonesome, Pierre? Out here alone all winter?
Oh, no, mademoiselle. I have my cabin, my snowshoe, my gun, and I sing. How I sing! Even the deer, she run away when she hear Pierre Baptiste Leblanc singing in the morning. What does mademoiselle do on the cold morning, eh?
Well, I follow the sun, Pierre.
Huh?
When winter comes, I pack my bag and go to California. I sing, too, but it's not like this, Pierre.
At the end of the first 2 weeks of Angela's absence, I received a wire stating that 2 more weeks were necessary to complete her mission. Well, it was still Indian summer, at least in the city. But when the 2 additional weeks passed and no further word came from Angela, it bothered me.
Yes, it's cold tonight. Soon the snow will come, mademoiselle. We must go back tomorrow.
No, Pierre, I really hate to think of going back. It's been so wonderful. So wonderful. I've learned to tell direction by the stars, to broil caribou steaks over an open fire, even to mend my own clothes.
Oh, but now things will change with the winter. The wolves will come out of the forest for food. The snow, she will pile up iron on the roof of this cabin. Well, mademoiselle, I will go to my cabin now. We must get plenty of sleep. We start back for Lac du Flambeau when the sun come up.
All right, Pierre.
By God, I say you have been a brave girl. These Vikings are good people. Almost as good as the French Canadians. Good night, mademoiselle.
Good night, Pierre. What's that?
Oh, it's the wolf. The winter she has come.
The wolf? Oh, Pierre, they frighten me.
Frighten you? Oh, you joke, mademoiselle. You say the Vikings are afraid of nothing. Well, I go now. Good night.
Oh, no. Please, don't go yet, Pierre. Oh, there's the door. Oh, Pierre. Hold me tight.
Oh, there. Little Angela. Big, strong Pierre holds you tight in his arms. Like this.
Don't let go, Pierre. Don't let go.
Wait. First I chase the wolf away, then I come back and hold you some more, huh? Oh, sacre bleu, this wolf is one fine animal. Sacre bleu, it's enough! Go away, wolf, for Pierre Baptiste Leblanc, the greatest trapper in all of Canada, will kill you!
Okay.
It is the wolf call. The wolf is gone. Now, we come close again, Angela?
Just a minute, Pierre Baptiste Blanc.
What? What is it?
I heard that wolf speak to you.
Speak to me? Oh, this Viking girl, she hears a wolf speak to Pierre.
You despicable creature!
Oh, stop beating my chest, Mademoiselle. Maybe you make hurt on Pierre.
Stop to strap me into your arms. Just like you do your weasels. There!
Okay. I have Indian friend make wolf call, so you come to my arms. Okay. But, well, Pierre Baptiste Leblanc, love you, mademoiselle. Only he don't know the word to tell you. So, I fix the wolf to make what you call the proposal for me.
Well, I should have known. Well, Mr. LeBlanc, you can go back to your cabin right now. I won't be afraid of any more of your wolves. And I'll be ready to leave at sunrise.
All right, mademoiselle. Pierre, he make one big mistake. He think Angela love him too. Good night.
Who does that big palooka think he is? What a sucker I am, rushing to his arms when I heard a wolf. He's nothing but a drugstore Romeo wearing a stocking cap. Oh, at it again. This time I'll fix it. One pail of water for a smart aleck. All right, Mr. Wolf. You asked for it. It's real!
Oh, look at him. He's one big timber wolf. Oh, my God, he hurt you.
No, Pierre, I'm all right. Just frightened, I guess. Oh, Pierre.
Oui, Angela.
Would you please hold me for a minute again? Just like you did before.
Hold you. Oh, Pierre Baptiste Leblanc will hold you like he's hold no other woman in his whole life. By God, that is a promise.
And here again is Warren William as John Francis O'Connell in East of Hudson's Bay.
After a month had gone by and no further message came from Angela Nelson, I took matters into my own hands. After all, there was a limit. I telephoned Commissioner McTavish and told him I'd fly to Lac de Flambeau to help him organize a searching party. Things had gone far enough. Meanwhile, Pierre and Angela were having their trouble.
This blizzard never stopped. It's been snowing for 3 days.
She won't stop until the snow is 6, 10, maybe 12 feet high. Now I'm late with my traps. The minks, the otters, the beavers, they will all run around the snow and say, "Where is this white Pierre Baptiste Leblanc? Oh, they will think I'm dead. Here I am only sick with love."
Oh, Pierre, listen. Ever since that night in the cabin when the wolf came...
When you asked me to hold you in my arms, Angela, huh?
Yes. That didn't mean that... Well, Pierre, it's this way. Just because you held me in your arms doesn't mean that I'm in love with you.
You're not in love with me. But I kissed you. You kissed me, too. By God, what monkey business is this?
Oh, call it a romantic interlude. Call it a weak moment, if you will. But, Pierre, don't you see, I have a social position to remember. What would my friends say if they knew that I was in love with a North woodsman? Don't you understand?
No, I do not understand. To me, when Pierre Baptiste Leblanc kisses a woman, she's his woman. Angela, we will go to the Jesuit mission at Lac de Flambeau and get married, no?
No, Pierre, no. I must go back home. We can't fall in love, Pierre. I'm sorry for both of us. Now, suppose you get me back as quickly as you can. And then you can trap your weasels, huh?
don't know. So that is it, huh? So Pierre-Baptiste Leblanc is not good enough for you, huh? By God, okay, I get you back. I get you back to Lac du Flambeau if I have to carry you all the way.
Well, while all this was taking place, I was over 100 miles away, trying to keep warm in Mr. McTavish's home. The weather had softened up a bit. It was only 30 below. Mild, he called it.
Well, John, we'll start out in the morning.
How do we travel? By dog sled?
Exactly. We've taken 2 Indian guides. Be there in 3 days. The snow is as slick as glass. We'll make good time.
You won't be able to make it any too fast to suit me. Walking or riding 100 miles when it's 30 or 40 degrees below zero isn't exactly my idea of fun.
Pierre, the snow. It's coming down so fast I can't see where I'm going.
By gosh, he's blowing bad. Wait, I tell you.
Oh, would you please? These snowshoes, they're so clumsy.
Now, then, up you go. I carry you like Indian squaw carry papoose. Just like I tell you in Commissioner's office.
How much further is it to Lac du Flambeau?
Oh, I think only about 10 miles. We make it sometime today.
Pierre.
Oui, mademoiselle.
I'm sorry I spoke as I did the other night. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Oh, it's all right, mademoiselle. Pierre should know better than to think you married big bum like him.
Oh, it isn't that I think you're a big bum, Pierre. Oh, well, skip it.
What do you do with ranch, mademoiselle? Sell him?
I don't know yet. Oh, it is a beautiful place, isn't it, Pierre? Pine trees, a river, 2 lakes, 12 feet of snow. But spring will come someday, even up here, won't it, Pierre?
I love the snow, mademoiselle. To me, it's like God's blanket of forgiveness. It covers over all nature so it can sleep and grow strong again.
You will come back here again, Pierre.
Oh, just as soon I take you to Lac du Flambeau, I will get my traps, my dogs, and come back to Leaf River.
Won't you get lonesome?
Get lonesome? Oh, Pierre-Baptiste get lonesome. Oh, no, mademoiselle. Now, I have got so many things to remember.
Such as?
Like tonight I have Indian make wolf call to frighten you. It was very, very funny.
Well, it wasn't funny when the real wolf came.
No, by gosh. Wait, Pierre, your dogs. Listen. Someone come on dog sled, maybe look for us.
Oh, Pierre. Oh, then you won't have to carry me anymore. Just when I was beginning to like it, too. By God, I'm happy to see you, John. And you too, Mr. McTavish. By God.
You all right, Angela?
Oh, by God, I say I am. Got caught in the blizzard, though. That's why we're late, isn't it, Pierre?
Oh, I'm very, very sorry about this thing. But we get back, okay, mademoiselle?
We thought you were snowbound, and Mr. O'Connell insisted we come to your rescue.
I hope, Angela, that you enjoyed this grand and glorious frozen north.
Oh, it's been wonderful, John. Just wonderful, every single minute.
But at least for my sake, next time, pick out a place like Palm Springs or Tampa. You know how cold it is?
Only about 30 below.
I told John it was still mild, but he doesn't seem to believe me.
Well, Commissioner, my job, she's through. The young lady, she's safe. Now I go to town, get my traps, and suck. I come back in a hurry. I am late to catch the weasels.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you. We'll see you at Lac du Flambeau.
Well, Pierre, knowing Miss Nelson as I do, you must have had your hands full.
Oh, no, monsieur. She's one fine girl. Just like, what you call...
Viking. Remember, Pierre? The Viking girl who was afraid of the wolf. Big bad wolf. It said, okay.
Next afternoon, back at McTavish's house, we were all sitting around the huge open fireplace, watching the last of the blizzard wearing itself out.
Tomorrow, John, I'm going to take you out so that you can shoot your moose.
But how about that caribou you promised me?
Aye, and that too. You won't have to walk far either. This time of year, they come right into town.
And then it's back to sunny California.
Well, that sounds a little reluctant, Angela. Seems to me you've adjusted yourself to this rugged country awfully fast.
Pierre! He's come with his dog team. He must be going back to Leaf River.
Well, I'll let him in. Come in, Pierre.
Oh, thank you, Monsieur Commissioner. Hello, Monsieur O'Connell, Mademoiselle.
Pierre, glad to see you again. My heavens, you look as if you were going someplace. Pack on back, dog team and sled outside?
I start out again for Leaf River.
Oh, you going back again so soon, Pierre?
I start now. By night, I will be deep in the forest. The blizzard, she's over.
And you've come to say goodbye?
To say goodbye. I hope you have many happy memories of the great forest, the Leaf River, and your little cabin in the woods.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Pierre. And I wish you many happy moments, too. When you're trapping your weasels and shooting timber wolves.
Well, Pierre, good trapping. You'll be gone until spring, I suppose.
When the ice melts on the rivers, the trees put on their coat of buds, I will come back to Lac du Flambeau. Well, au revoir. Pierre-Baptiste Leblanc is ready for the grand aventure.
Goodbye, Pierre, and thank you once more for taking care of Angela.
Goodbye, Pierre.
Goodbye to all of you. Bon voyage.
Good luck to you, Pierre.
Oh, away we go.
Oh, there he goes. Handsome fella, isn't he?
Goodbye, John. Goodbye, Mr. McTavish.
Angela, what are you doing? Where are you going?
Back to God's country. I'm going back with Pierre if he'll take me. Oh, it's love, John. True love. Pierre! Pierre, wait for me, Pierre, wait. I'm going with you.
Warren William will be back in just a moment to tell you the rest of the story of East of Hudson's Bay. But first, here is a brief message from your announcer. And here again is Warren William as John Francis O'Connell.
Evidently, love can't be regulated by climate. Angela Nelson found her love in the frigid north, east of Hudson's Bay. She and Pierre were married in a little Jesuit mission at Lac du Flambeau, and a few hours later they started out for Leaf River and her ranch to spend a nice, quiet honeymoon. Today, 1 year later, there is a little Pierre-Baptiste Leblanc, who shows every promise of becoming the greatest trapper in all the North Country. At least that's what Angela tells me. And by God, I think she's right. Don't you? Next week, we have a story for you straight from Hollywood. I mean, as straight as anything can come from this fabulous city of make-believe. It's the story of a man, a young, handsome, and dashing motion picture star, who wrote his autograph for a beautiful young lady. Now, we know, of course, that signing one's autograph in Hollywood is an everyday circumstance, but not this one. No sooner was Peter Layton's signature down on that piece of paper than things began happening. We call this intriguing story Autograph Girl. This is Warren William, inviting you to listen again next week.
Strange Wills is a Teleways feature produced in Hollywood. Any similarity between names used on this broadcast and those of living persons is purely coincidental.